Yeah, there's supposed to be sound here. Sorry, I was transferring all the I was transferring all the space news links. Yeah, that's what I've been doing. There, I've condensed it. I condensed it down, and there's still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. I got it down from 30 of like mostly redundant stuff. There's so much freaking stuff, dude. You know what? You know what, man? Like, here's the thing. Here's the thing. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I'm not tired. I'm tired, and when I get exhausted, I get crabby. Forgive me, I'm not perfect. Creeper, if you're out there, sorry I was being a dick. I'm still tired. I'm still kind of exhausted, but yeah, I think I'm actually overwhelmed by the amount of space news that we have to talk about today. I'm actually overwhelmed. There's so much stuff I need to cover. I'm actually getting overwhelmed, and that might have something to do with why I was just like, nah, I'm going to bed. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. So because you know, I took a break and we restarted here. I'm going to take a second for everybody to trickle in so we can cover as much ground as possible and explain it to as many people as possible. So, yeah, I can't believe that. I'm actually, like, kind of a little bit overwhelmed. I'm like, I don't know how the heck I'm going to get all that done and be competent by the end of it. Some of these topics are extremely complicated. Apology accepted, I get it. Yeah, it doesn't give me the right, though. Doesn't give me the right, I'm sorry. I didn't want to send you a DM. I wanted to do it right here in a public forum. You know what I mean? So, thank you. Thank you for giving me links every day. I do appreciate it. Just a little cranky. A little cranky. My bad. Anyway. Did you hear the place that makes yardsticks aren't making them any longer? Now, Geeson, he can off. I didn't mean to overwhelm you with the links. It's all good. It's all good. You didn't know? You didn't know. It's fine. Dude, I mean, Polaris Showdown. Wait, what, Jared? Yeah. Yeah. I thought I'd be good, and I was all right for a second there, but yeah, no, too groggy. Too groggy. So, like I said, we'll take a second here and wait for everybody to get in. And we'll go from there. What did you think of the crane thing? My mind is paced, demo. Dude, I get to a certain point, like, dude, I'm pretty good at trying to visualize what people are saying in chat. I can do it. It's hard. It takes a lot more brain power than you might think. And I was with you until that last one, and then I was like, you're saying words and it's not registering. It's not registering. I'm like, that's not good. I'm in. You could start. Hope you had a good nap. I sat in my bed and rested for a second. I didn't sleep, but I watched Fleeter operate a bulldozer for like 30 minutes. Or the screenshot got the idea across. Yeah. I see what you're trying to do. You're clamping it, and yeah, it seems to work. But I mean, maybe we should model our own parts. Or like, I'm starting to think like a mechanical engineering package would be useful. You know, along with the hinge that we made, will take us through like building. You know, dude, like basic tools like a freaking lever or something. or just a dowel, just a tube that you can use as a hinge or something. Like, we'd have to kind of go around and think what we want, like housings for the hydraulic, a telescopic, telescopic. Still tired, can't talk straight. I put another screenshot in. It takes upwards of 600,000 Newton meters with minimal bending. Oh, okay. Let me see. I saw what you posted. Yeah, here. We'll start with that. Kind of pick up where we left off. What is this? Hi, Jay. What rocket are we reviewing today? With all the news, Bone Sister, it's probably all of them. All right. Oh, Jesus. Nope. Nope. You can miniaturize this Aqualex for if I'm looking at it right. So this is your base. That's attached to it, but the rotor's up, the motor is upside down, and then you have two rotors that are facing inwards, so the spinny parts are facing each other, right? And then this base plate piece is attached to the rotor, or not the rotor, the motor. So we have motors and you have rotors. This is going to get confusing. And then the base plate is clamped between your rotors. That's the idea. Is that thing going out in the KSP universe? No, Willie, it's not launching in 17 minutes. Yeah, Demo, I see what you did here. I can see it. I'm pretty sure I figured that out. Is the base plate made out of prefamulated emulate? Tessa hadn't figured it out. Other side, good morning from Austria. Ah, guten Morgen, mein Freund. Wie geht's? Ja, ist gut? Gut? Ja? Mr. Badger with the raid. We're just waiting for everybody to trickle in here, guys, because, yeah, the video's in concurrent today because the meat suit wasn't cooperating. I bet it's aerogel. Was it surmounted by a malleable logarithmic casing? Dein Deutsch ist wunderbar. Ah, gut, gut, sehr gut. Ja. Ja. I actually started scrolling around in the KSP thread, and I saw that Noobly made this. Just on a side note, I don't mean to change the subject. Noobly made that, and that's pretty good, man. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good space station model. That's all stock, by the way, with the exception of visual and flags. That's pretty good, dude. That's pretty good. That reminds me of the Space Station Freedom build that we did. Noobly did a very, very good job. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Yep. Look, he used the CBM design that we used. Noobly, if you're out there, good job, dude. That's pretty impressive, I must say. You know, oh, yep, there's my joiner mechanism, too. Not bad, dude. Not bad to reverse engineer all that from the VODs. Good for you. That's pretty sweet, dude. That space station was not easy to make. It was not easy to get that done correctly. Oh, he doesn't have my SPMs though. That's pretty sick, dude. I watched a video about the two hemispheres of the brain and questioning free will, and it freaked you out. 2 hemispheres of the brain? Why would it freak you out? Thoughts on the FAA grounding Falcon 9? Alleviate, we'll get into that. Yeah, that's the reason why I didn't just take the rest of the day off. Because we are dragging in more space news by the freaking minute. Dude, I got Alleviate, no joke. I got overwhelmed from the amount of stuff. From the amount of stuff that needs to be gone over. And not only is it, this isn't just like, oh, I want to show it to you for space news. This is like, so nowadays I use space news and you guys helping me with all these other topics, and you know what you guys get in return is we get to talk about it. I use this to make sure my finger's on the pulse for the space industry, so I don't get caught with my pants down when we're on Flame Trench. It happened to me once on Flame Trench where somebody asked me about something and I just genuinely had no freaking clue. I don't ever want that to happen ever again. So just the sheer amount of information that we need to review is like, and it's unfolding as I talk, it's unfolding even more. Oh, jeez. Both hemispheres of your brain are like their own conscience. Each region of them might even seem like it. I don't know, man. So where your research team? Got it. Hey, I do a fair amount by myself, too. Yeah, but what you guys get in return of that is good explanations for your news, so it's all mutual. Okay. Anyway. All right, we'll go at past. Hey, Fish, 5-month resub. Thank you. I don't think we got sound. Let's dial in the sound. Make sure this works. 1 ping only. Okay, we're good. I like Hemispheres by Rush. Quite a good album. Hemispheres is good. Subdivision is good. Moving Pictures is probably my favorite, but that's the most generic Rush fan answer, obviously. Can confirm Twitch side stream is nominal. Thank you. Hey, T-Money. How you doing? Chad, I need one of you to teach me rocket basics. The reason that liquid oxygen you use instead of gaseous oxygen as oxidizer is because liquid oxygen is more dense. So, like, could gaseous oxygen be used? And what's the math on the density difference? Of course, gaseous oxygen could be used. The density difference would be ridiculous. Gases are less dense than solids, Fun Sisters. This isn't rocket basics, this is physics basics. A rocket engine that uses a gaseous oxidizer, though, they got a word for that, dude. It's called a jet engine. Just saying. Yeah, just saying, man. That's what a jet engine does. Only a jet engine is ingesting nitrogen and oxygen. It's only ingesting 20% oxygen in the mixture. Right? Right? Reason why you bring it with you is because there's no oxygen up there. Could you move it as a gas? Yeah, sure. But that's the difference between something like a Hindenburg-sized vehicle and something like Falcon 9. You know what I mean? Sure you could. Liquid is a little bit more manageable, though, considering this thing is violently going up into space. Liquid's, believe it or not, easier to manage. How do you get the gas to flow? Hard to do. Getting a liquid to flow is really easy. You could use a gas. Just squeeze it. Done. I mean, that's not exactly what tank ullage does, but that's the gist of it. Or if it's an SR-71, it could almost reach space. The SR-71 may have gotten near space, like, up there. It probably, if I'm understanding right, I mean, we don't really know how fast that thing goes. There's what they told us, how fast it goes, but If you know anything about turbo ramjets, I'll bet you it could go faster. I'll also bet you that it can't go much faster than as advertised, maybe a little bit more, but it depends. It depends entirely on what's called shock heating. The SR-71 can, I'll bet you the J58s go so fast that it experiences some shock heating, some re-entry heating. That's probably your technical limitation there, the material properties of titanium, because that's what it's made out of. It's made out of titanium. I bet it could tickle Mach 4. I've heard Mach 5. I've heard Mach 5. That was from my crazy uncle, though, that was in the Air Force that worked at NORAD, so he was also kind of nuts, so maybe he was jerking my chain, but you know, who knows? I know just with what I know about physics that it could probably go faster. With the bypass, the J58 bypass, the turbo ramjet, yeah, you can go faster. Anyway, I have the Johnny Kim link. El Hydra, yep. Early jet engines and early rocket engines both used kerosene. Falcon 9 uses kerosene, dude. Yeah, Trenton, no joke. You have to be slightly crazy just to go that fast anyways. Yep, absolutely. Anyway, I was gifted half a chunk of Inconel 718 the other day. I didn't realize how dense that stuff is. Inco is the Wundermetal. Yeah, Inco is a pain in the butt to do any machining with. It actually uses salt water now. Do you think that this grounding for Falcon 9 would be shorter or longer than the 9.3 grounding? Andrew, yeah, I don't know. I have the fairing news, Phil. I'm just waiting for everybody to kind of trickle in here. I just started space news, so let's go. I'll just sort through this a little bit and make sure you don't need that link. That's gonna go over there. I'm going through all these stuff. That's good. We got some posts from Relativity about their fairings. I got those two. Trying to just organize all this stuff. There's the Astrobotic report. There's ABL's report. There's Peter Bick. There's the XB1 test. Okay. So we're going to start in the VAB down at Kennedy Space Center. So NASA, the SLS account posted this today. Teams at NASA Kennedy have been updating High Bay 2 to allow for vertical assembly of the SLS core stage beginning with Artemis 3. All major structures for the core stage will continue to be produced and manufactured at the Michoud Assembly Facility. So this is a picture of the integration jigs that they're going to use. Oh, God. All right. That they're going to integrate the main propulsion system for SLS and the hydrogen tank, intertank, oxygen tank, and forward skirt together. The tankage and the interstage and the forward skirt are going to be assembled in Michoud, and the main propulsion system will be fabricated at Michoud in Louisiana and then assembled at the Cape. Now, why? Why would you do this? and then in the VAB high bay, they're going to mate the engines and the engine section. So that's called the MPS, main propulsion system. So they're going to mate that with the tankage and the rest of the rocket in the VAB. Taking the vehicle assembly building name a little too seriously, if you ask me. But hey, whatever. Anyway. So. Yeah, Space Clouds. I've been wanting to get on YouTube streaming for a little while, but Twitch is kind of my home. And yeah, kind of, because I've been here such a long time. I do like, there are some things I like about Twitch. Actually, there's a lot of things that I like about Twitch. But YouTube streaming is pretty cool. It's kind of a little different, though. A little bit of a different vibe, but whatever. I'm trying to bring some of that over there, you know? Anyway. Was that a holy crane? No, they just opened up the VAB doors. So, the reason why they're going to do this is because the main propulsion system is, well, the MPS is basically a spacecraft. It's a space shuttle. I've always said that the main propulsion system, and believe it or not, this isn't even my kind of way of putting it. This is how it was described to me by people that work on it. The SLS core stage, the main propulsion system, so the part with the 4 engines, is basically the back half of a space shuttle. It's basically that, but cylindric, and bolted to the back of not an external tank, but an ET-derived tank, right? It's basically as complicated as this piece right here. So that's the back half of the shuttle. So because of this, you need a spacecraft processing facility to build that thing and make sure that everything is a-okay. It needs to be done in what's called a clean room environment. So down at the Cape at the Kennedy Space Center kind of industrial area, which is just south of the VAB. Here, let's go in here. There is a building. The building is next to the Neil A. Armstrong Operations and Checkout Building, which is where the astronauts are. The astronauts walk out. It's that's where the astronauts walk out, right there. So this is ONC right here, Operations and Checkout. So here's the thing. The ONC, the Orion spacecraft is made in this building. That's where they fabricate the Orions, and the ESM comes in through that door, and they put the whole thing together, and then it goes out this high bay right here. Now, a little ways away from that, I believe it's this building, I'm pretty sure. You have this sucker over here. Now, what's this guy? What's this one about? That is the former Space Station Module Processing Facility, SSPF for short. This is where they brought all the space station modules and did final checkout and assembly on them before they shipped them up north to the VAB. Up north, I mean, it's just up the road to the VAB, or to the OPFs, to be put inside of a shuttle payload bay. All the ISS modules, right? All the ISS modules from the United States operational side. So this is a clean room right here. It's one of the biggest clean rooms that in the US. A clean room is basically not a hermetically sealed environment, but an environment that minimalizes foreign object debris. So it's FOD minimalization. They need to do that to build the MPS, because the MPS, like I said, for all intents and purposes, is the back of a space shuttle with 4 engines that's cylindric. So when you want to build, turns out when you want to build a shuttle-derived launch vehicle, you have to adopt some of the shuttle's things. The shuttle was built in a clean room. Those clean rooms are still there, but they're not used for shuttle building. Boeing owns them. They're in Palmdale. Couldn't really do that with an MPS. So what they've decided to do is manufacture all the structures for the MPS, right? And then ship it here, and then do final assembly, 4 engines integrated into the main propulsion system in here, then ship the MPS out when it's completed, go down Kennedy Parkway right here, and bring it into VAB High Bay 3, which is this high bay right here. They'll then mate the main propulsion system with the rest of the core. The hydrogen tank, the intertank, oxygen tank, forward skirt. Those pieces will still be manufactured and worked on at Michoud, but they'll ship them here and it'll ship it with no engines, right? And final assembly of the SLS core stage is going to be done in high bay 3. You see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's one of 4 high bays inside of the vehicle assembly building. In the center of that is an aisle right here that's aptly named the transfer aisle, because you transfer stages in this to the 4 high bays. That's how it was originally engineered. Now, high bay 1 is abandoned. No one's used it since 2011. High bay 3 is retooled for SLS. That's where they built Artemis 1. High bay 4 is where they process SRB segments for Artemis. And high bay 3, up until this point, was not used at all. Because that clean room, the SSPF, the former Space Station Processing Facility right here, because that clean room is there, and this is the type of facility that was basically needed to make the MPS and not have any problems with it, they decided to build it here. And what's a better place to integrate it than inside of the VAB? You have a gigantic high bay here that you could build whatever, right? So it's actually not a bad idea. They started doing that. They started going down that road probably. Started going down that road. Thanks for the bits. They started going down that road to figure this processing last year. Actually, last year at about this time, and contracted a company called Futuramic out of Michigan, believe it or not, to build all this equipment here. What you're seeing here is the processing stool for the MPS and the jigs that need to be set up to assemble the core stage. Human fart kit, 5-month resub. Yep, this is called the processing stool. Yeah, Futuramic made all of it. The blue and yellow is their color scheme. That's a dead giveaway. Futuramic is out of Detroit, Michigan, and if I had to guess, this is a guess without doing any research, just bear with me on this one. If I had to guess, Futuramic is a AAA supplier, so a subcontractor for the automotive companies to build access and gantry equipment for automotive assembly lines, but also dabbles in building fixtures for rockets, which is super cool. I seem to have noticed in Tim's video, all of the integration equipment has a very similar color scheme, blue and yellow. We'll get to that in a second. So I'm wondering if they actually did make all this stuff, because it looks very similar. The color scheme is exactly the same. Just on a side note. So here they are putting together the processing stool to be able to put an SLS together. This is inside. This is inside of high bay 3. The transfer aisle is right there. And then high bay 1 is on the other side. Isn't the yellow OSHA regulations? Yeah, of course. You have to paint the railings high-vis yellow. We did that for our satisfactory thing. Yeah, any gantry or temporary structure, yellow. But, dude, that fence is the exact same thing. See the fence? See the railing with the fencing in it? That's the same thing. See, look, there's the processing stool for the main propulsion system. If you notice here, check this out. Look how they picked that thing up. Interesting, huh? Oh, taglines. And they just used the VAB to build inside of it, which is super cool. I'm not exactly sure where that bolts to with the core stage. That might just be for engine inspection, but I'm not sure. I thought it would be the SLS hold down points, right? But it's definitely not. And when I say core stage hold down points, it would be the aft SRB attachment struts for the core stage. That's how it bolts, but it doesn't look like it. It just looks like they picked it up from there. But yeah, here's a picture of them actually putting the thing together, which is super cool. Yep, there's another one. So you could see there's the relief right there for the liquid oxygen downcomer on the SLS core stage. There's probably a duplicate piece of this that they mirrored that they're going to put on the other side. Hey, Deadeye. Not sure if you talked about it yet, but do you have any insight as to why the FAA is requiring investigation for 1062? Their reasoning was a permanent loss of vehicle when every other rocket, aside from Starship, experiences a permanent loss at first stage. Deadeye, it's about intention, guys. It's about intention, right? SpaceX did not intend to permanently lose 1062, and they did. That's it. Once again, it's about intention. This isn't a blanket rule. You know what I mean? It works within the context of what you're trying to do. Does that make sense? I can talk more about it later, Deadeye. I just wanted to kind of get through some other stuff we've been meaning to talk about. So, it's cool. The reason why they did this, the reason why NASA chose to do it this way is because it'll optimize SLS processing, and they'll be able to make them faster. Yes, they'll be able to make them faster. That's the good news. Here's the bad news. Gotcha, I'll be around for a while. Yeah, I didn't want to lead with the Falcon 9 stuff just because it's going to take a second for everybody to get in here. And I know I'm going to be talking about it anyway for like hours, so let's get through all the other stuff. Stay objective. Stay objective. Stay objective. I know you're cranky today. Come on. Come on. All right, get a drink of water. If you're hearing some buzzing with the microphone, it's just because it's getting a little bit warm in here. Yeah, we had a little bit of a late summer hot day. It's kind of warm in here. So I have the fan blowing on me full blast. Okay, Pandaroo, EJ, for the SLS build stand, don't you mean down tuber and not downcomer? I do. Yes. Yes, very much so. Very much so. What about insulating your steel box? It's insulated. That's the problem. There's no air conditioning in the main part of the garage, but the whole thing's insulated, so it just becomes an oven. NASA Office of Inspector General, NASA's management of the Mobile Launcher 2 project. What is Mobile Launcher 2? ML2 is a mobile launcher, which includes your launch umbilical tower and your mobile launcher platform right here. That is to be designed for SLS Block 1B. Block 1B is a version of SLS that has a bigger upper stage, a payload fairing basically below that, and the Orion capsule on the top. This version of SLS will be able to move way bigger payloads out to the moon than the current version flying, which is the Block 1. And basically, this is the upper stage that was intended intended for this vehicle. Yeah. Now, why can't we just use this? Why can't we use the SLS mobile launcher that's there? Well, if you take that mobile launcher offline, you're not going to be able to do Artemis 2 and Artemis 3. The other reason why you can't refit that one, I know that's the first question that's going to get asked, is because this vehicle is much taller. Block 1 SLS only goes to maybe about here. It is a gigantic launch vehicle. Doesn't the Camaro have air conditioning? Anyway, sure. Why we perform this audit? Actually, if you want to see a good picture of this, we backed it out and we have the Burgonator posted this right here. ML modifications required for Block 1B. There's the difference between the mobile launchers right there. You have to move all your crew access infrastructure around, which is difficult. Speaking of SLS, B2 Side 2 Raceway is complete. Nice. Looks good, man. It is a gigantic upper stage, for what it's worth. Yeah, you have your exploration upper stage, which is a 4-engine RL-10, 8.4 meter diameter upper stage, which is pretty damn good. And then on top of that, you have basically a payload fairing, but the payload fairing has, instead of being pointed at the top, you have an adapter up here for an Orion capsule, which is actually pretty cool. So there's your difference between the one that we're using right now and the one that we'll be using later. So let's go in here and read this. Development of the mobile launcher is key to NASA's Artemis campaign, which seeks to return astronauts to the moon and send crew missions to Mars. The mobile launcher is the ground structure NASA uses to assemble, process, transport, and launch the Integrated Space Launch System Heavy Rocket and Orion Multipurpose Crew Vehicle System. The agency is developing a second mobile launcher, ML2, at Kennedy Space Center to support larger variants of the Space Launch System that will be used for missions, beginning with Artemis 4, scheduled to launch in September of 2028. Bechtel National Incorporated, Bechtel, the prime contractor for the ML2 project, is responsible for ML2 project management, architectural and engineering designs, technical integration, fabrication, construction, testing, commissioning, and quality control. The ML2 contract was awarded in June of 2019 for $383 million, with Bechtel scheduled to deliver the launcher to NASA in March of 2023. By August of 2022, the contract value had increased to over $1 billion, and the delivery was delayed to March 2026, with more recent estimates from NASA and Bechtel showing further cost increases and schedule delays. We previously reported on ML2 cost and schedule overruns in a June 2022 report. Hey, Concrete, what's going on? Which were primarily attributed to Bechtel's performance. Despite progress since our last report, NASA has struggled to develop a reliable cost and schedule estimate for the ML2 project and incentivize significant improvement in contractor performance. Given the importance of ML2 for future Artemis missions, it is critical that NASA effectively manage the project to control cost increases and avoid schedule delays. In this audit, we examined NASA's management of the ML2 project to include both Bechtel's contract performance and NASA's overall project cost and schedule management. To complete this work, we reviewed the ML2 contract modifications, Bechtel's monthly financial reports, project risk documentation, award fee performance evaluation reports, contracting performance assessment reporting system reports, schedule analysis, and key milestone documentation. We also interviewed officials from NASA, the Defense Contract Management Agency, and Bechtel. What we found: NASA projects the ML2 will cost over 3 times more than planned. In 2019, NASA estimated the entire ML2 project from design through construction would cost under $500 million. With construction completed and ML2 delivered to NASA by March of 2023. In December of 2023, NASA estimated the ML2 project would cost $1.5 billion, including
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Including $1.3 billion for the Bechtel contract and $168 million for other projects, with delivery of the launcher to NASA in November of 2026. In June of 2024, NASA established the agency baseline commitment. The cost and schedule baseline committed to Congress against which a project is measured. For a ML2 project cost of $1.8 billion and a delivery date of September 2027. Even with the establishment of the ABC, NASA intends to keep Bechtel accountable to the cost and schedule agreed on in December of 2023. Bechtel makes nuclear reactors, John. Yeah, that's what they usually do. They really haven't made many mobile launchers, to my knowledge. Despite the agency's increased cost projections, our analysis indicates costs could be even higher, due in part to the significant amount of construction work that remains. Specifically, our projects indicate that the total cost could reach $2.7 billion by the time Bechtel delivers ML2 to NASA. With the time NASA requires after delivery to prepare the launcher, we project that ML2 would not be ready to support a launch until spring of 2029, surpassing the planned September 2028 Artemis launch date. NASA officials disagree with our analysis and expect costs to lessen over time now that Bechtel has started construction of the launcher. The agency believes this is an area of expertise for this contractor. While progress has been made with the beginning of the construction of the mobile launcher, it is still too early to determine the impact on the contractor's continued cost growth and whether Bechtel can achieve and sustain an improved level of performance through the construction phase. Okay. Until NASA established the agency baseline commitment, the agency lacked a cost and schedule estimate or official baseline for the ML2 project. Cost and schedule estimates from NASA and Bechtel have changed several times and increased significantly over time, making it difficult for NASA to identify its funding needs, be accountable to Congress and other stakeholders, and accurately measure and project contractor performance. The agency's history of increasing the ML2's cost estimate over time also contributes to our assessment that costs will be higher than what the agency currently projects in the future. We also found that Bechtel's performance drove the significant cost increases and schedule delays to the design and development of ML2. Current contract value of $1.1 billion includes $594 million of Bechtel overruns. Further, Bechtel's monthly cost reports show the company's continued underestimation of the ML2 project's scope and complexity, which resulted in cost increases in several categories, including labor, equipment, and administrative expenses. Oh man, did they mess up? But I'm wondering why they messed up. Why did you think building this would be easy? Although Bechtel has made progress on the ML2 project since construction began in August of 2023, the company faces technical challenges that risk further cost increases and schedule delays. This includes steel fabrication and delivery issues that impacted the construction start date, as well as potential changes to ML2 structure that could add to the launcher's weight and increased cost. Why are you changing things? To its credit, NASA has taken steps to better manage the Bechtel contract, including removing 6 of the 11 umbilicals from the contract and instead providing them to Bechtel as government-furnished equipment. Minimizing requirement changes. And improving contract management and visibility into costs. Nevertheless, the agency has few options, with award fees remaining the primary tool. To incentivize better contractor performance, in the 9 award fee periods from contract inception in July of 2019 through September of 2023, NASA awarded Bechtel approximately $11.2 million out of the available $23.3 million award fee pool. While Bechtel was not paid award fees for periods 4, 6, and 7, and we questioned nearly $3 million awarded to Bechtel for periods 8 and 9, despite multiple documented performance weaknesses. Although NASA and Bechtel revised the contract's award fee evaluation plan in March of 2024 to add objective milestone-based incentives as criteria for earning additional award fees, it is too early to assess the merits of this revised plan. The ML2 contract also includes an option to request a cost estimate from Bechtel for converting the contract from cost plus to fixed price. Hell Hydra VDS. Oh boy. Last, please. Dude, I'm reading. Give me a freaking break, man. I can't read a paragraph when I'm reading a paragraph, dude. I'm willing to give them some slack on things like raw cost increases, price of steel, equipment, etc. during the effects of COVID. But there's slack, and then there's taking the piss. Bechtel's taking so much piss, I think they qualify as a waste disposal company now. All right, that was pretty good. But also, yeah, just give me a second, dude. It's important for me to understand this, to kind of read it all in one shot. And I'm trying not to take try not to take breaks, or else you lose context to what they're talking about. We did, Stelfar. Yep. What we recommend to... Where's Hell Hydra? I asked Hell Hydra. Vehicle damper system. They were going to make their vehicle stabilization system with ropes. It's the fan, Sebi. It's hot in here. Here. Let me move it to units you understand. That's with the air conditioner blowing full blast. Thermodynamics. It's warm. It's warm, and I'm cranky today. Anyway, to improve NASA's management of the ML2 project, we recommend the Associate Administrator for Exploration Systems Development Mission Directorate ensure lessons learned from ML2's acquisition, contract, and project management are codified to inform future development efforts. What, for the next mobile launcher you're going to build? Conduct a thorough analysis of the feasibility of utilizing the fixed price option, and if NASA determines that it will not be exercised, remove the options from the ML2 contract. We provided a draft of this report to NASA management, who concurred with recommendation 1. And partially concurred with recommendation 2 and described planned actions to address them. We consider management comments responsive, therefore the recommendations are resolved and will be closed upon completion and verification of the proposed corrective actions. I mean, guys, I've been over this before. Hey, well, fact, what's up, man? Been over this before, guys. We can sit here, and I know what everybody's going to do. Everybody's pointing the finger at Bechtel, say, how do you screw this up? How do you screw this up so bad? How do you screw this up so bad? How do you screw this up so bad? Well, first of all, COVID might have screwed the supply chains, like what you were saying, Tessa, but okay. I don't think it would screw it 3 times the price that, but also it sounds very much like Bechtel underestimated this project. They're like, we make nuclear reactors. This rocket launch pad, easy peasy. So they overpromised and underdelivered, from what I can tell, and they underbid just so they could get it, which I don't really necessarily understand. Why wouldn't you just use the same contractor that made the mobile launcher for Ares 1? Like, why would you pick a company that has no experience here is kind of beyond me. I'm not really sure why you would do that, but whatever. You're pointing the finger at NASA. How do you keep hiring companies that are completely incompetent? Green Dragon, that's kind of where I'm going with this. Because you got to think about this for a second. I'm not saying that Bechtel needs to pull their head out of their ass, because they definitely do. But also at the same time, somebody at NASA, and unfortunately, I hate to say this, but someone at NASA under Jim's watch looked at an ML for a rocket that hasn't been designed yet and said, yes, it's going to cost $383 million. How do you know how much one of those is going to cost when you don't even have the rocket's design finalized? That right there is asking for cost overruns. Period. Full stop. Telegram. All right. So here's the thing. You can sit here and you can point fingers at Bechtel all you want. But also, if NASA doesn't, it said it right at the top. They have no schedule. They have no schedule for this project. And once again, it's the same behavior, guys. Everybody blames these contractors for milking NASA, right? But look, I highlighted it. I like went over it a bunch of times. They didn't have any schedule or cost analysis for this on a cost plus contract. What do I always say is the way to do a cost plus contract correctly when you don't understand what you need to make because the rocket hasn't been made yet. Deadlines. Deadlines are what make that contract structure work. You have to deliver it by a certain date. You have a blank check to basically do that to a certain to get to a certain date. NASA has no schedule. They have no schedule. They had no schedule commitment. They were going off. Look, in 2019, Bechtel was scheduled to deliver the launcher in 2023, and when that didn't happen. Look, by 2022, the contract values increased to over $1 billion. Like, there is such a... Dude, you can point the finger at Bechtel, but NASA has their... Dude, once again, what are you doing? Somebody should have known that this thing was going to be expensive. Like, what? Where's the foresight? I could have told you this would have been an expensive endeavor, not a $383 million endeavor. It'll cost $383 million if you want to build it with no equipment on it, maybe. You know, but at the same time, right? What the hell? Like, NASA doesn't know what type of rocket they want. They're not sure. The SLS Block 1B in 2019 was like a pipe dream, right? You can sit here and say it's Bechtel's fault all you want, but NASA awarding a contract for a launcher, for a vehicle, a version of the vehicle that they're currently manufacturing. They haven't even manufactured the Block 1 version. How the hell do they know what the Block 1B version is going to look like? More so, how the heck do they know a cost price for that? That's bullcrap. We had this conversation when Bechtel first screwed up. If NASA doesn't have a schedule commitment, a firm schedule commitment, what's the incentive for this contractor to get anything done on time? What's the incentive? There's no incentive. There's no incentive to get it done on time. Why would you? Why would you do that when you could sit there and turn a $383 million contract into a $1.8 billion contract. Why would you do that? NASA, it always seems like NASA awards these contracts when they always give the contractors the benefit of the doubt, right? Like NASA goes, hey, sell me this pen. And the contractor goes, oh, I'll sell it to you for $5. And they grab the pen and they go, okay, that'll be $15. And NASA goes, why did the price increase by $10? I don't understand. Well, hey, the tactic, inflation or something. Okay, I'll just pay for it, whatever. I've seen this behavior left and right. You can't point the finger at just Bechtel. It's, even though they did screw up, it sounds like they severely underestimated how much this program, or how complicated building one of these things actually is. They severely screwed up. But also, it's NASA's job to tell them that, and it seems like they really didn't. Also, how does Bechtel incorrectly model their structures? Also, how does Bechtel mismanage their subcontractors that are critical to development? No, Rocky, don't get me wrong. They screwed up bad, but you can't just point the finger at them. This behavior doesn't just come out of nowhere. This behavior would have been apparent by 2021, at the very least. And at that point, that's what it... That if you're not hitting deadlines in the first year of the project, the first year of the 4-year project, if you're missing the mark by a year for a year deadline, you're going to miss the 5-year mark by 10. You know what I mean? Like, it's only going to get exponentially worse from there. And that's on NASA. That absolutely is on them. The OIG report also said that NASA is changing the design. You can't tell a contractor, I need you to make this. They go to make it, they give you a cost estimate for making it, and then change the damn thing. You can't do that. You can't design a mobile launcher for a vehicle that hasn't been engineered yet. That's ridiculous. It's more than that, okay? Not just underestimated, totally mismanaged. Yeah, it's pretty telling, Rocket Guy. Once again, we went through this last year with the IG report, the GAO report. They all say the same thing, yet Bechtel is still allowed to just sit here and engineer this stupid thing. You're telling me there's nobody in this country that could, there's no one contractor in this country that could do that faster. Ridiculous. You will read later that the only deadline in the contract was delivery in March 2023 or something. NASA had no milestones. Milestones were only added late last year after Bechtel said it would take 3 extra years and an additional $1 billion. Oh, why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we do it? No structuring, no milestones, no nothing. I mean, granted, it's hard to make milestones for a rocket that doesn't exist. Sorry, that's just going to be a thing. But, oh... You know, Bechtel's screwing up. They're completely mismanaging this project, and people at NASA are just like, oh, it's going to cost more? Oh, that sucks. All right, here, let me open up my checkbook. Yeah, how much do you need? Another $1 billion? Okay. Here you go. NASA screwed up from the beginning, awarding a nuclear industry company the contract to. Nuclear reactors are notorious for being multiple times the original estimate over budget and over schedule. Ever seen the movie Idiocracy? Yeah, Damien, I wouldn't call it a movie at this point. Sounds more like a documentary. How much of this is NASA's fault versus congressional meddling due to it being SLS? Iceblade, here's the thing. SLS is a rocket that was designed to make everybody happy. It wasn't designed to do something. It was designed to make everybody happy. It was designed by Congress because they got the rug pulled out from under them because we almost had nothing. Right? that is not my opinion. That is absolutely what happened. Somebody played political football with NASA's future ambitions for the next 30 years by axing Constellation, and Congress freaked the frick out, and they said, the hell you're going to do that? And as a way to get back at the rug being pulled out from under them, they designed a rocket, and they made it law to build it in the way that they want. So we had a rocket that was designed by committee that's really not good at doing any one particular thing. That was the first mistake. Now, with all that being said, right? With all that being said, when they put this rocket into effect, right? When SLS became a thing, right? It had no milestones, no deadline, no nothing. They said, maybe we'll go redirect an asteroid, or maybe we'll go back to the moon in the future. Maybe we'll do this, maybe we'll do that. No structure, nothing. No clear set goal, none of that. That's the second problem. Every single problem that NASA had stems from those two things. But you have to understand that the first one was there because we almost had nothing. That's what happened. This is what happened when space isn't being taken seriously as a national priority. But I digress. That second thing, no goal, no deadline, no nothing. That's the reason why we have this problem. This is a ripple effect of that decision, easily. And it kind of basically made idiocracy par for the course here. How are you going to design a mobile launcher for a rocket that doesn't exist, for a stage that you don't even have the blueprints drawn up for it in 2019? You don't even have that. And then when you screw up in the first year and it doubles the price of the contract, how is nobody at NASA going to be like, nope, nope? How do you build a vehicle for something that you haven't decided on, that you haven't done before? Bingo. Bingo. There's your underlying problem. Your underlying problem is that the SLS program is fragmented. And when it's fragmented like this, it pits contractor against other contractors. You get crazy infighting, you get incompetency. There's no goal, there's no unifying structure. Everybody's just kind of off doing their own thing. And in the midst of that chaos, what if you're a commercial contractor, why would you be incentivized to deliver anything? Anything. You just sit there and milk the contract all day. Why? There's no deadline. NASA doesn't even know when they want this. There's no scheduled milestones. Why? What's the point? Why would you invest $1 million into your labor force, for instance, or like $50 million into your labor force to get this thing done on a reasonable schedule, when you have no idea when you need to accept delivery, you have no idea when you need to get this component done, etc., etc. Why even bother? So once again, don't get me wrong, Bechtel screwed up completely. Like, I think this particular one, I wouldn't even say, do you see the difference here between, like, we've been talking a lot about Starliner lately, and I say Starliner reeks of inexperience. You know why? Because the Starliner stuff was a little bit late, but most things in the aerospace industry are. However, you see this? This is a colossal frick up. This is the difference between a management problem and an inexperience problem. I've always said people that work on Starliner want it to work. They want it to succeed. They just don't know how to make it succeed because they fired all the people that knew how to make it succeed. Inexperience. This here is a management frick up from the ground up. Do you see the difference here? You know, everybody says, oh, it's management at Starliner. It's management at Starliner. No. If there was a big management problem here, Starliner wouldn't even be close to flying right now. Straight up. Do you see the difference? Does that make more sense? Hey, Lisa, welcome back. Sorry, I had to log off. I was getting a little cranky. You see what I'm talking about? You see the difference here? This is a management problem. This is a gross management problem. How, you know, and it seems like Bechtel is contracting out everything. They don't do anything in-house except put the thing together, or at least they contract out as much as they can. fragmenting this contract even more. Do you see the difference here? Do you see what I'm talking about? This is a management problem. Oh, yeah. But it's also on NASA, too, for not holding their feet to the fire. And that all comes from the original program. Rocket Guy, where's that bit on the scheduling? Where is that bit? Let me find it. Introduction, ML2, cost and schedule are unsustainable despite NASA's effort to improve. Search milestone. All right. Okay, nevertheless, the agency has few options, with award fees remaining the primary tool to incentivize better contractor performance. In the 9 award fee periods from contract inception in July 2019 through September 23, NASA has awarded Bechtel $11.2 million out of the $23.3 million. How? But Bechtel was not paid award fees. Nope, it's the next one. Hold on. We already read that. Goodness. Hey, T-Man, we'll talk more about that in a second. Bechtel lost their primary steel fabricator subcontract because they... Bechtel lost their primary steel fabricator subcontract because they wouldn't commit to them under contract. So the subcontractor said, piss off. So they went with another customer that gave them a contract. See, companies that can't, suck on the government freaking teat all day actually have to do business to get stuff done. That's the expediency there. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. I'll give you a breakdown of the incentive award periods later in the doc. Until NASA established the agency baseline commitment in June of 2024, the agency lacked a cost and schedule estimate or official baseline for the ML2 project. Right there. Big red flag. Big red flag. Absolutely NASA's fault. Right there. Absolutely NASA's fault. We have a perfect storm of incompetency here. It's not incompetence. It's a perfect storm of ridiculousness, let's just say. Cost and schedule estimates from both NASA and Bechtel for ML2 contract have changed several times and increased significantly over time, making it difficult for NASA to identify its funding needs. Can't they just withhold payment? That's what I mean about NASA. NASA needs to get their head out of their tail. Look, man, you missed 3 performance goals. If you work at a company, and you miss your performance goal 3 times in a row in an incentive-based structure, you will get fired. Hello? Oh. That previous section you were reading later said something along the lines of, in 2024, NASA reorganized the contract to add milestone objectives. The agency's history of increasing the ML2's cost estimate over time also contributes to our assessment that costs will be higher than most. It's a steel structure, guys. We don't know how to make a freaking steel structure. But the incentives pool is only like $23 million. But the cost, what is that? The incentives pool is only $23 million, but the cost plus part, if whatever Bechtel says they need, which is $1.1 billion. Okay. This is, guys, once again, this is, you have a contractor that has their head completely up their tail, severely underestimating how much it's going to take. Oh, you know what? We just got to start from the top. We got to read the whole thing. We got to read the stupid thing. I didn't want to do this, but What's that, Fozzie? Bechtel was the contractor on the big dig. That'll tell you. No. 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 The contracts for the Big Dig, a major highway renovation and investment project in infrastructure in Boston, was when the contract was awarded, it was valued at $2.2 billion. By the time the Big Dig was, that was in like 1989 or 1990. By the time the Big Dig was finished in 2005, it had cost $14 billion. So NASA can hold the 23.3 million essentially, but the cost plus part is Bechtel needs what they need to build the whole thing. So I don't think NASA can legally hold that funding. Yeah, because it's the cost plus part, not the incentive part. Yeah, but NASA can and currently capping the money to 1.1 billion when Bechtel says they need 1.6 billion or whatever, dude. Oh my God. May. I could bid lower and take longer. I'm, you know what? Like, on a just complete side note, I'm honestly impressed. It takes skill to bullcrap somebody into saying, oh yeah, this is going to cost $380 million. I'm now just getting 1.8 billion. It takes skill to do something like that. You have to, like, that. I wish those skills would be applied to, you know, building the thing. But also, yeah. I see why I say people sitting collecting a check. And goalie, guess whose fault that is? Guess whose fault that is? It's NASA for bending over backwards to these frigging contractors and not holding them accountable. The only people, that's why NASA needs an Office of Inspector General, and that's why NASA needs a Government Accountability Office. It's funny because the GAO says all this stuff. The Investigator General says all this stuff. Where's the accountability? Bechtel made Liberty ships in World War II. Yeah, Journey, that's what I'm trying to say. That's what I've been saying for the last 5+ years. Look, we can say, you can point the finger at Boeing, you could point the finger at Bechtel, you could point the finger at whoever you want. What is the one unifying thing in all of these contracts that just happen to exceed cost by like $1 billion? What's the one unifying thing? Guess what, man? At some point, you got to say it. Maybe it's not the contractors. Maybe the contractors are incentivized to be incompetent because they know they'll get rewarded for incompetency by doing less work. Just saying. Whose fault is that? Boom, right there. I've been saying this for a really, really long time. Just putting it out there. I know it's not a completely fair comparison, but SpaceX built the 2 towers, 1 OLM and 1 OLM in a fraction of the time and money. You don't know. Time, yes, Deadbringer, but you don't know about cost. Be careful with that one. Time, sure. Oh, yeah. Why do you think people like SpaceX so much? Heck, man, let me put it to you like this, okay? Let's just conditional hypothetical here, okay? Just complete conditional hypothetical, all right? So, think about this for a second, okay? If Bechtel had promised the mobile launcher, you know, they got awarded their $383 million contract. It's a cost plus contract. If they had built the thing got it done, had it completely ready to go by the time that they promised, and it costs the same amount that it costs here, I honestly wouldn't care. I'll be 100% real with you. Because it's really hard to build a vehicle, to build a rocket, or build a launcher for a vehicle that doesn't exist. If they had delivered it on time, I wouldn't give a frick if it had a $1.8 billion price tag. I really wouldn't. Right? I wouldn't care. Would you? Would you honestly think about it? Like, you know, you said like time and money with SpaceX. SpaceX is building all this crazy stuff. There's no way it doesn't cost billions of dollars. I'm sorry, there isn't. What's the difference here? SpaceX is expedient because they know that, well, Elon knows this, and Elon has the stakeholder expectations. It's his company, whether you like him or not. He's hell-bent on going to Mars and knows that time is of the essence. So everything gets done expediently. Right? Would you give a frick? Would you give a frick if it cost that much, if they delivered it on time or even delivered it ahead of schedule? No, I wouldn't care. Sure. That makes perfect sense. There's a chart in the document that shows the cost and schedule bloat. It doubled from 383 to 690 million between 2019 and May 2021. Yes, that can be attributed to COVID, fair enough. But then by August 2021, just 3 months later, Bechtel said they needed another 300 million. Then 6 months later, they ballooned further to needing 1.3 billion. So what the heck happened in that 6 months period? That cannot be COVID. Yep. What graph is that chart on? I want to see it and be upset. I'm already cranky today. I want to see it and be upset. Just looked up Bechtel. The sheer amount of projects that went dozens of times over the original estimate. Basically, anytime they make a quote, you can guarantee it'll go up 10x. Got a fun scoop. That photo relativity shared today, their fairing is in the Beyond Gravity, formerly Ruag factory, and it's common and is common to Ariane 6. Interesting. Oh God, I found it. Page 15 of the document. Oh my goodness. Look, man, it's up to NASA to look at this and say this is not okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If you promised 383, you know, you said you could do it for 383 million. This, if I was an NASA administrator at this point, I would have been like, you guys can piss off. Bye. Sorry. See you later. Right here in this area is where I would have been like, no, no, no. Sorry. Nope. 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 But see, here's the thing. NASA has to be careful about doing this stuff. The reason why they'd have to be careful about doing this stuff is because if NASA gets a reputation for pulling contracts on people, right? What's the incentive to work with them? There's no incentive to work with them. You got to be careful about this. You don't do this lightly. With that being said, I would have done it here. I mean, you guys should freaking piss off. I'll get Elon to build the damn mobile launcher. I'm serious. I would have gone their way. Hey, you want to build one? You want to build one for SLS? Frick it. All right, Clipper. Examples for Bechtel: the Big Dig, Eurotunnel, HS1. Nice. London Jubilee Underground, Chernobyl Safe Confinement, the Romania A3 road. This one they abandoned after building 54 kilometers out of 400. Yeah, uncapping, that's what I mean. Yeah. Safe confinement. They built new safe confinement. Lovely. But see, here's the thing. Guys, once again, I'm trying to be objective as I can. It very much looks like Bechtel is full of crap right now. Here's the thing, dudes. All right, and it's something to take into account. This probably isn't going to change anybody's opinion. I'm just trying to make sure I got all the stones unturned, right? Like what OIG would do. Or Investigator General. NASA has changed the stakeholder expectations for SLS a lot since it was initially formulated. Remember, no schedule, no analysis, no nothing. Just build the rocket. We'll figure out what it's going to do later. It all goes back to that problem. How can you engineer a mobile launcher for a rocket that doesn't exist? How? How can you do that? You can't. You're going to run into this problem, and they have been running into this problem because there's no scope. There's no scope for what this thing is supposed to do. See what I'm saying? Look, Bechtel seems like they really like taking their time with things. All right. But also at this, like, all right, sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. What I'm trying to tell you is that, look, NASA keeps changing the design, which is why I would have said once it got up here, I would have been okay. Like, I would have been like, yeah, that's fine. But right here, 682 mil, you could attribute that to COVID, or you could attribute that to the rocket isn't finished either. But this and this nonsense, no way. I would not. I would have been like, you guys need to not do that. I don't know. Didn't NASA try and tell a contractor pissed off at the test stand? I don't know, maybe. This one is fully on Bechtel, EJ. They were woefully ill-equipped to handle cryogens. It would have been on Bechtel, Vulcan, if it was 2021 and Bill told them to piss off. Past this point, no. Sorry. They got $11 million in incentive fees for good performance. And a $1.3 billion overrun. Dude, look. That's on NASA after a certain point. You have to, look, I'm sorry, you got to neg the contract. Frick them. I'm serious, dude. It's on Bechtel at the beginning. Yeah, but, you know, NASA just sat there and said, oh, you don't know how to do it? Oh, it's okay. We'll give you more money. It's on NASA at that point to have a spine and say no. But they just sit there and they get gaslit by these freaking companies. You remember Bill talked about this? I will talk to Bechtel and make sure that we get that under control. That was like 2 to 3 years ago. Okay. You got it under control after you cost the taxpayer $900 million. Great. Look, man, at what point is that on you? We get all these contractors that underperform, overpromise, underperform, need more money. What's the unifying thing, Vulcan? Dude, I'm sorry. I don't want to be a dick to NASA. Like, I really don't. Like, I don't like doing this. Freaking solace in it, but honestly, what the hell? Jim isn't guilt-free on this contract either. He should have known better. Serious. He should have known better. Absolutely. He absolutely should have known better. NASA needs to say, bring in people that can, because we are here waiting. Does EJ know that the OIG released a report about ML2 2 years ago? And I said the exact same thing then, Floating. I'm literally regurgitating what I said 2 years ago. I said the exact same thing. If that VOD is still around, I could show you. And, you know, Vulcan, you can sit there and say, oh, they massively misunderstood cryogenic. Then why the hell did you bid for the contract? Like, what, you're just going to learn? You're just going to learn how to use hydrogen? You're just going to learn about cryogenic hydrogen? Just how to move that around, no big deal. Yeah, we'll figure it out. Stay in your fucking lane. I'm sorry, man. Like, what do you want me to say? I can only sit here and give NASA the benefit of the doubt so much, and I've been very patient. Very freaking patient. I understand this stuff takes time. I get it. Stick to Liberty ships. Yeah, Liberty ships. You know why that's funny? Because Liberty ships were notorious for having design flaws. Like ripping themselves in half doing a transatlantic crossing. Look it up. Like, yeah, Barton, I know. Space is difficult. I get it. I get it. I understand. I understand this stuff takes time. I get it. Look, man, this stuff takes time, but also not like that. Found their press release. In all fairness, that was a design problem, not a company-specific problem. I'm trying to be fair. I'm not saying all the blame is on Bechtel. I'm saying most of it is. Most of it is their fault. You don't bid for a contract when you have no idea what you're doing. You just figure it out. Bite me, you'll figure it out. We have the freaking moon to go back to. This is ridiculous. I'm telling you, there's no way engineers that would be working on this were involved in that bidding. I never said that they would be, John. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what is that in regards to? I don't get it. You know, another thing, why do we have two different companies building two mobile launchers? Why is that a thing? Why didn't they use Jacobs? Jacobs built ML1. Why didn't you just use them? Why would you not do that? Why? What? So the company bids and expects the engineers to just be able to do it. And what I'm telling you, John, is that that's on the company. If you don't understand your company's own technical expertise, what the frick are you bidding on contracts for? What is this, just a game? I won the prize. Us and two other companies could have the dang thing up before Artemis 3 is ready. And you know what, Goalie? Like I said, I would, at this point right here, that's the exact question I would have asked. Hey, these guys suck. Who wants to put it up? Who wants to? Give you $500 million to do it right now. What are you gonna? What do you? You know, NASA concurs with one of the findings from this report, and one of the things is that if you go up here, take a look. We provided a draft of this report to NASA management, who concurred with Recommendation 1. Recommendation 1. Ensure losses learned from ML2's acquisition, contract, and project management are codified to inform future development efforts. The recommendation was to learn from this experience. That's it. That's it. That's all. Learn from this experience. That's it. And NASA said, okay, yeah, we will. Anyway, I bet they told NASA we have the technical expert to do this, but those experts were only resume, not employees. Maybe. I don't know. EJ, you know about engineering and stuff, so I have a question for you. In addition to a recirculation system with HEPA filters and activated charcoal, I'm making a flexible air hose ventilation system for your 3D printer that will be attached and used after finished printing ABS to remove anything the filter did not get. The fan I bought for this is a 120 millimeter, 120 CFM computer fan. I ordered a 120 millimeter hose, but I was wondering if you thought a 100 millimeter hose would be better for this. No, Lucas, just use 120. Use the 120 hose. It depends on how fast you want to evacuate it. You want to evacuate the print, right? If you use a tighter hose, your fan's gonna have to do more work because it's forcing more air. But if the back pressure exceeds the CFM flow of the fan, you can get a constriction and it's not going to do anything. It'll take a lot longer. You could get back pressure. You don't want back pressure. Just use a 120 millimeter line. Bill basically said NASA has to eat the costs. I think we've hashed this enough. Guys, once again, you know, the OIG, or the Investigator General, says NASA needs to learn from this. I've learned from this. You know how I know all this? Because I've read 1,000 reports like this. A lot of them being about this exact freaking thing. I love your control room here on YouTube. All right, Pat. Yeah. Hey, thanks for watching. Guys, I've said this as nice as I possibly can, man. Bechtel screwed up. I think the majority of blame is on them. They screwed up with their, you know, thinking that moving around cryogenic propellants would be easy. That's their fault, okay? However, if NASA's just going to keep sitting there and basically bending over backwards for these contractors when costs balloon 3 times the amount, there should be an investigation into the contract structuring to begin with, and you have to hold somebody accountable here at the end of the day. And I'm sorry, you know, I mean, it's hard to point the finger at one particular person, but also, look, man, what I've come to realize about NASA is that if the Investigator General or the Government Accountability Office has to do a report on you, something's very wrong. Like, And I've sat here for a very long time trying to argue on behalf of, you know, the SLS program. I think it's a good design. I think it's a good rocket. It's the contract structuring, which is ass. It's terrible. Right? Sure. Tessa, pick your analogy. And that all stems from, what the hell does this rocket do? Everything comes back to your stakeholder expectations in systems engineering, development, and design. What does SLS do? What is it here for? What is it supposed to do? I'm saying that wearing a damn SLS. Yeah, if you ask the average layman what this is supposed to do, I don't know, go to the moon maybe? If somebody even remotely is interested in space, they'll say go to the moon. If you ask the average person what Starship is supposed to do, I'm pretty sure most people would say it's supposed to get you to Mars. This is... NASA needs to have a spine. They need to, when they're getting screwed like this, they need to be able to say something. They can't just sit there and take it. In fact, you know, we always sit here and say that, you know, CEOs of corporations have a fiduciary responsibility to shareholders. Well, guess what? NASA officials have a fiduciary responsibility to taxpayers. I don't give a frick what anybody says. Like, how can anyone sit here and make the argument here that this is beneficial to the federal tax base as a whole? Is I don't know. I don't have the answer. I don't have the answer to that question. I don't really have anything else to say. Bechtel screwed up majorly. They overpromised, underdelivered, and we're paying the price for it. And guess what? That's probably what's going to happen. But remember what I said. Badger, are you here? Uncapping Badger, I saw you in chat. We had this. Me and Badger had a good back and forth, you know, the other day. Look, man, I'm an SLS. I like SLS. I also like Starship. I don't just like every single rocket out of some, like weird interpretation, like we have to be inclusive. Every rocket is good. No. I like both of these rockets because we are in a position where we can have both of them. We can have something like a Saturn V, but we can also have something like Starship coexist. And as a spaceflight fan, for the sustainability in the long term, that is the most sustainable way forward. We've seen what happens when the scale goes one way or the other in the past. When it's all government, we can make great strides in a short period of time, but there's no sustainability. I would argue that there is, but there's no sustainability there. And, you know, if nobody else can get to the surface of the moon, for instance, they'll just there's nothing stopping them just pulling the plug willy-nilly. Simultaneously, the commercial industry can expand and contract because it's subject to the whims of the economy, which also is elastic. It expands and contracts. There are periods of growth and there are periods of contraction. Best we can do is minimize those periods of contraction, right? Because of this, it's very hard to get the space sector going, and it's very hard to keep it sustainable in that regard. Okay? The only thing that we haven't tried, a case in point would be the commercial payload in commercial contract or commercially operated rocket industry completely collapsing in the 90s, like completely, because of the dot-com bubble, because of a contraction. The only way that we haven't tried is doing both of these at the same time, and we're in the unique position to be able to do both of those things at the same time. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that that's the most cost-effective way to get things done. And nor am I going to sit here and tell you that it should cost that much either. But also at the same time, it is very important that SLS works. It's very important. It's super important. Why? Why is it super important? If they pulled the SLS program completely right now, that would be actually billions of dollars, Bechtel notwithstanding. It would be billions of dollars less for the whole for the spaceflight industry as a whole. Now, I'm not trying to say this is sunk cost either. But I think it's the most sustainable way forward. What we really need to do is fix this, frankly, atrocious contract structure. NASA needs, I'm not saying NASA needs to be run more like a company, but NASA needs to think, you know, is this a good idea? 383 million, 1.2 billion. Shouldn't that raise a red flag that somebody at this company has no idea what they're doing? I would say that. Yeah. Shouldn't that, if we want to be the most sustainable in the long run, guys, I keep coming back to this. NASA needs to pull their head out of their ass. They really do. This is ridiculous. This is no good. Because guess what, man? There's a day of reckoning that's going to happen. If you don't work on fixing this nonsense right now, well, guess what? What's Polaris 3's mission? We know Polaris Dawn is coming up. We don't know when, because we'll talk about that later. What's Polaris 3? Polaris 3 is the first crewed Starship flight. If Starship gets a human rating certification, there is actually no need for SLS anymore. However, if Starship gets its crew certification, and SLS is already doing stuff like getting us to the moon on a more or less reliable schedule, all I'm asking for is four launches a year. I don't think that's incredibly difficult. It might be, I don't know. If SLS and the whole Artemis program doesn't have its act together by the time Starship gets a human rating certification, and that moment is rapidly approaching, you can't stop the train that is SpaceX. You'd be first of all, you'd be an idiot to do that, and second of all, you'd be crazy to think that they're not going to get it, right? Once that point happens, if SLS isn't seen as viable, they will can it, and that is billions of dollars less per year for the space industry. I don't think that's a good idea. Now, you know, people say, oh, you know, well, we need it to be sustainable. We need to be sustainable. We can't just pull the plug at the same time. If SLS is performing and Starship gets human rating, it's going to supplement the Artemis program, not vice versa. That's why it's important to get this figured out now. Now. Got to pull your head out of your ass. Like, forgive me for using foul language, but I think swearing warrants exclamation. I'm trying to get people's attention about this. You know, the whole debate makes a good argument for just giving SpaceX the money and letting them deliver, since we know they will go hell-bent for leather to get it done and on time and on budget. Well, even SpaceX isn't on time, but that's because they're pushing the boundaries here, what's something that NASA should be doing. For the avoidance of doubt, I'm still convinced your argument that both NASA and SpaceX need to operate independently as much as possible, but right now getting increasingly difficult to justify that position. Badger, I'll say the same thing that we said. You got to pull their head. They got to get their head out of their ass. You're going to, dude, NASA is beholden to public perception. In the 70s, the public didn't think we needed a lunar program anymore. We beat them. That's it. We're done. And public perception of NASA as ridiculous spending was part of the reason why the Apollo program got canceled. That and you know, there's that whole Vietnam War thing, but that's another story. I think that's more a reason than anything, but that did contribute to high price tag. Now, with all that being said, like I said, we're in the unique possibility where we could get a healthy and robust government space program and a healthy and robust private space program supplementing each other, which has proven to be the best way forward. Commercial Crew is a good example of that. That's a great example, except for Starliner, but they'll figure it out. This is serious. I got to break out the biscuits. You know, if NASA doesn't pull their head out of their ass, guess what, man? SpaceX is going to come around, and it's going to be extremely difficult to justify it. The only reason why I still try to push for SLS and want it to do good and want it to do better is because we're in a finite window where we could have both of these things. We could have two super heavy launch vehicles. And ain't nobody gonna sit there and convince me that less money spent in the aerospace industry is worse. All I'm asking for, NASA can spend these billions of dollars. If they go ahead, spend this dude, I wouldn't mind these cost overruns if this right here, that date was the date of delivery. All right? If in July of 2022, Bechtel said it's going to cost 1.2 billion and they had that thing ready to go, rolled into the VAB, good to go, I wouldn't care. That's more money for the industry. This is not this. All right? And you know, NASA wonders. They wonder why. You know, why does this keep happening? Why do you know we're doing cool stuff too? We're doing cool stuff too. Look, man, you're approaching it. You're approaching a day. They're approaching a day of reckoning. All right, they are. The original reason why Congress wanted SLS, one, was because they didn't want the tax dollars to stop, first and foremost. But two, they said, and these aren't my words, I mean, this isn't even Congress, this is Neil Armstrong and Gene Cernan that said this. Pulling the rug out on a national space program could be catastrophically bad for our future endeavors. The implication at the time was that eventually commercial will catch up. They're not going to for a long time, but eventually they will. And once we get to that point, then maybe we can talk about replacing things. That was in 2011. That was 13 years ago. The justification for SLS is that the commercial can't get the job done. Like I said, we're rapidly approaching the point where they can. Just putting it out there. You know, and it's hilarious to me because people are cheering that on. People are cheering that on not realizing the irony that, you know, canceling SLS means less money for NASA. Like, but, you know, and the justification there is somehow some crazy implication that, you know, if if they pulled the contract on this $1.2 billion mobile launcher, that this money would go directly to SpaceX. That, A, that's not how contracts work. B, that's not how contracts work. And C, that's not how contracts work at all. NASA doesn't have the ability to just shift this stuff around. If they did, there would be plenty more government accountability reports, don't you think? That money will never, ever go like just to SpaceX. It won't. And even if it did go to SpaceX, it wouldn't be that high price tag, would it? Because SpaceX can do it for cheaper. Getting rid of this with no replacement is a serious defunding of NASA. Do you want that?
Go at throttle up.
I don't want that. Hey, Ensid. 89-month resub. Thank you. Do you want that? I don't think that's a good idea. I really don't think that's a good idea, which is why I've been so damn critical of NASA. Because NASA's just this ship, seems like for the last 10 years, they've just been this ship that's adrift. You know, Jim's tenure notwithstanding, Jim was trying to right the ship. It just seems like a ship that's been adrift and just hemorrhaging freaking water. Or hemorrhaging air, I don't know, it's sinking, right? What do? Jim tried to right the ship, and it seems like we've gone back to normal. Do these people understand that the only justification here is that commercial can't get it done? That's the justification for SLS, and I'm saying that as somebody that loves SLS, but I also love Starship too. I want everybody to succeed because that's better for the industry. That's better. That's more sustainable. You want to go to the moon on vacation by the time we retire? I do. This is the best way to do that. It'll be just like Constellation. Canceling Constellation was billed as this awesome thing. It was great. Look, you know, now commercial can do it for cheaper and we'll get further in space. That's great. But what happens if we enter a recession? The commercial companies didn't survive the dot-com bubble bursting. What if a housing bubble bursts? What if 2008 happens? Elon says it himself. SpaceX would not have survived the 2008 Great Recession if NASA didn't give them a commercial orbital transport services contract, which was under the Constellation program, might I add. Not everybody knows that. Constellation program saved SpaceX. And then ironically, people used SpaceX as justification for killing the Constellation program. Weird, huh? Ernock, hey, 84-month resub. You see what I'm saying? Look, man, here's the real deal. All right? I don't see, unless something drastically changes, I don't see NASA writing this ship. I really don't. And then that's billions of dollars less for the aerospace industry, for space exploration, I should say, not for the aerospace industry. That money will probably find its way in defense contracts if you really want to know. And you know, I don't know about those. I don't want to know. Okay, I don't want to know. I have a feeling there's a lot of them like this, but you know what? I don't feel like having an aneurysm today, so we won't talk about that, right? Hey, Ismic, what's going on? You know, you have to get SLS working. You have to get it working because there's going to be a day of reckoning, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen in the next 10 years. The point where commercial capability will surpass government capability completely. You've already seen it with the Orion capsule. Just saying. Once you see it completely with every NASA human-rated system at a programmatic level, you're screwed. There's no way people are going to justify having that, having this vehicle. There's no way. In all the space, you proved all the SpaceX fanboys right. And don't get me wrong, guys. I ain't rooting for SpaceX to lose. I ain't rooting for NASA to lose either, because that's the most sustainable way forward. We've seen when the ball is over here in this side of the court or this side of the court. You've seen what happens either way. It's not good. Putting all of our space exploration hopes and dreams on commercial companies is not wise. And don't get me wrong, I'm saying that as somebody who absolutely wants Starship to succeed. But I can be objective about this. A recession almost killed SpaceX in the past. There's no reason why another one couldn't as well. And then, like I said, in the past, we saw what happens when the government has the only way to get to the moon. Once some moron, some bureaucrat decides that we don't want to do that anymore and changes the game, right? The next president, terms, whatever. That's not very sustainable either. We are in a position right now to cement both of those programs in for an extremely long period of time and forge a completely ridiculous path amongst the stars. We are in a unique opportunity where we could have the Saturn V, the space shuttle, like operating in more than a space shuttle Saturn V hybrid, and a Saturn V operating at the same time. That is the most sustainable way forward. I mean, it's not the most cost-effective way forward, but it's the most sustainable. And in order to reach that goal with SLS and Starship, once again, when Starship gets operational, SLS needs to be performing well enough that a human-rated Starship is supplemental to the Artemis program, not the thing that puts it in the freaking ground. If Starship gets that human rating point and SLS is still dicking around with a $3 billion mobile launcher, who knows how much the stupid thing's going to cost. There's no justification for having that. And don't get me wrong. That day of reckoning's happening. If it happens, it happens. That's probably what's going to happen. If NASA doesn't fix things, it's probably what's going to happen. I'll be real with you. It's probably what's going to happen. And guess what? You know, that's fine. Whatever. Put all your hope on Elon. Whatever. Hey. You know what, man? He doesn't shoulder that burden lightly. No one at SpaceX does. Doesn't shoulder that burden lightly. Just saying. If that's the future, if that's the timeline we want, that's the timeline we want. But we could be in a timeline where there's more stuff flying, where there's more rockets flying into space, more heavy rockets. I don't understand how people don't think more rockets flying is somehow less sustainable. That's ridiculous. If Elon lands on Mars, who will he claim it for? Don't know. Well, I don't know. I do not understand how the ML is costing so much. Bechtel is stupid. That's how, Jensen. They're stupid. Either that or they're doing it on purpose. I don't know. Put all our eggs in one basket. That worked well in 1972, 1986, and 2011. Yeah, exactly, Green. Yeah, I understand that. Does that sound like a sustainable way forward? No. I'm here. I'm looking at what I'm trying to forge a path in my mind of what the space program is going to look like, or what I would want it to look like in 10 years, in 15, in 20 years. This is what I think about when I think of when I come up with these opinions. What do you want it to look like? Yeah, Hellfish, it's borderline. How does it not? How is it not? $1.2 billion after agreeing to a $383 million base contract price? With no scheduling expectations, no milestone expectations. Look, man, Jim, that contract was awarded on Jim's watch, and it was that's absolutely his fault. Sorry. I don't mean to be critical of Jim Bridenstine, but August 2019, you were in charge. That's the reason why NASA needs to be insulated from politics, more honestly. I disagree. Something like Amtrak, no matter what you say about them, you don't see them throwing away new rolling stock every 48 years, or USPS. Yeah, Acolytes, but you understand that doing something like that is a more complicated thing to do than trying to leverage the system to your advantage, like the Apollo program. At least with trying to do it the way I'm proposing, it's worked in the past. There's no guarantee that that's going to work. Just saying. I don't want to talk about this anymore. This is ridiculous. Bechtel has their head up their butt, and NASA has their head up their butt for not holding their feet to the fire. $1.2 billion is unacceptable. It's unacceptable. There's no way a steel structure costs that much. I'm sorry. There is no way. I know a lot about spaceflight, and I know a lot about costs. I know this is an expensive endeavor. But what they're saying here is that, like, a smart car costs $300,000. That's what they're saying. Look, do you know how much a smart car is? You know the retail price. Do you know how much it costs to make one of those? No, you don't. But we know it. As humans, we're not stupid. It's not a Rolls-Royce drop head, man. It's a smart car. It's made out of plastic. NASA has their head up Bechtel's butt. I don't know what's going on here, Wiz. I don't want to just sit here and say that it's everybody scratching each other's back, because, if you say that it's pork, it's a jobs program, you're pointing your finger at a boogeyman that you can't quantify, which is stupid. That's a losing argument. That's a losing way to look at it. I'm sorry, it is. Saying, it's this boogeyman of a thought. It's this idea that, they milk NASA's, the NASA contractors milk NASA for all they've got. Guess what? That's a boogeyman. You're never going to be able to point at one particular entity because it's a bureaucratic process and say that that's the problem, right? That's chasing a boogeyman. It's stupid. Took out all the self-driving technology, was used less material, need less battery, and it would be cheaper. Quell, don't get me on don't get me on the freaking roll here about how I think don't get me on a roll here about how I think cars are way too complicated for the task. But you're not wrong. There's gonna be a day of reckoning, dude. It's gonna be a day of reckoning, and that deadline is rapidly approaching. NASA needs to fix this. All right? Look, man, once again, I'll say it one last time. If Bechtel said, we're going to do this, and, oh, crap, it's going to cost $1.2 billion, and delivered it on time, I honestly wouldn't care. But the fact that they promised a 2023 delivery date, and it ain't going to be delivered until 2028, more than double the timeline here, I'm sorry. You royally screwed up. Hey, SVO, 18-month resub. I've talked about this before. I've talked about it in the past. When the government accountability report about this exact same thing came out 2 years ago, I said the same exact thing. I'm saying it again now. I think it's been rehashed. We're good. I'll remind you in 2 years when another investigator general report comes out and the cost is ballooned to $2 billion. Okie dokie. Next bit of news. Oh, speaking of the point where commercial is going to catch up with government capability, Blue Origin posted this. This is a picture of the New Glenn Stage 1, or GS1, at the inside of Blue Origin's factory at Cape Canaveral. That's 7-meter core right there. 7-meter core, 7 oxygen-rich stage combustion cycle Methalox motors, full reuse, all the time. Look, that's not as big as an SLS core, but it's almost as big as an SLS core. Hexagons are bestagons. 16-day projected turnaround time. Talk is cheap. We'll see what actually happens. So this is an awesome vehicle. Look at that thing. Like, you know, once again, I've been willing to give Blue Origin the benefit of the doubt here. I know that they've been doing something. You'd be stupid to think that they weren't, considering the, you know, the stakeholder expectations and, let's say, deep pockets of people and of stakeholders involved. But now we're starting to see that come to fruition here. Look at the size of that damn rocket. It's huge. This rocket is targeted to launch about a month and a half from now, launching NASA's Escapade satellites, 2 satellites to Mars, I believe. The engines obviously aren't installed. You can tell because of the way it is. Check it out, man. Yeah, who thought putting those on an untested rocket is a good idea? Well, Stelfar, the Escapade mission is not a very expensive mission, so the risk is lowered because cost is lowered. That's the idea here. And here is, hey, yeah, I was going to get to Dave Limp's tweets about this. Dave Limp is the CEO of Blue Origin. He talked with Jeff Faust here. Jeff Faust says the update, or what was his original one? GS1's heart is the aft module, which contains most of the stage's avionics, hydraulics, fluids, pneumatic systems, and landing gear. Its primary purpose is to distribute the thrust load from our 7B4 engines to the rest of the vehicle. Up next, integrating all B4s, 7 engine builds are complete, 2 strikes, and the base heat shield panels that protect the engines from re-entry heating. Jeff Faust replied, who's the guy who runs Space News, right? The update is appreciated, but it would be great for Blue to share more details on the work remaining for a first launch that's only about a month and a half away, particularly with the challenges inherent in the first flight of any new rocket. Dave replied to him, says, still a lot to do, but progress. A bunch of milestones coming up in quick succession. Not an exhaustive list. Engines integration, our landing barge arriving soon, hot firing the second stage, and yes, lots of unique challenges as our first flight. But folks are excited and leaning in big time. Do I think New Glenn will land on its first attempt? Yes. I think they'll do it. Leaning in big time? Cirrus, I think your chair is crooked. But anyway, speaking of contractors, once again, like I said, guys, there's going to be a day of reckoning here. Going to be a day of reckoning. When this thing gets operational, 7-meter core, fully reusable, 40 tons to Leo, 40. And your second stage is using expander cycles. You could use 3 New Glenn upper stages, right? Put an Orion on one, put a lander on the other, and then put nothing on the last one. Dock those 3 things together, Apollo style, and go to the moon.
could do that. And you know what? I'm willing to bet that, oh wait, there's sustainable lunar development. They're doing something like that already. That's weird. How can you justify SLS when something like that exists? We're approaching a day of reckoning. It's not just Starship, guys. NASA needs to fix things, or there ain't going to be any NASA left. The only way SLS safeguards its long-term sustainability is if it's sending people to the moon on a regular schedule by the time these rockets start doing that kind of stuff. Whoops. You can, to a degree, certainly. Yeah, rockets, if we want to argue the merits of risk of, LOR versus EOR rendezvous architectures, I'm pretty sure Joseph Shea did that 55 years ago. But also at the same time, yeah, I get it. But also, like I said, right now, NASA is the only one that can send a crew-rated capsule even near the moon. SpaceX couldn't do that. SpaceX couldn't put the Orion where SLS did. Sorry. Will that change in the future? Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Sure. Well, and that moment is approaching very quickly. But also, right now, can't. What's super insane is that NASA had 2 SSTO projects that they can because one, they got cold feet and the other one, the leg broke. DCX and Venture Star. Yeah, I know. I have to admit, not having the engines installed on something that'll launch for the first time in a couple of months makes me a touch nervous. Do they even have a launch license yet? Not sure. But yeah, good stuff, dudes. Good stuff. I mean, honestly, Blue's moving quick. They've been moving a lot faster lately, and I'm pretty happy about it. Now, we're going to go through a little bit more space news here. It's going to be relatively quick. Does this mean we're going to get a very spicy flame trench? Yep. Yeah, and more transparent rocket for sure. I've been swamped with work and been out of the loop. What are your thoughts with the Starliner issues? Do you think it's a big problem for Boeing or just a minor setback? It's a minor setback with gigantically bad optics that makes them look really stupid. Does that make sense, Fancy? Look, man, it's hard to test thrusters in the vacuum because the only way to test thrusters in a vacuum is if you launch into a vacuum, right? So I understand that this is a problem that's really hard to measure. However, that's true. However, I'm not going to say they've been disingenuous here, but the thrusters in Starliner are based off of the Space Shuttle's RCS. It's the same system. There's 30 years of flight data on thermals for those damn things. And somehow they didn't get it right. Their thermal models were off completely. They did not get the thermal analysis done correctly. The doghouse is overheat. Poppet seal degradation happened. Thrust degradation happened. That was documented in the shuttle program on STS-32 in the early 90s. This exact behavior. There was no solution for it, but then the AIAA had another report that's on NASA Technical Report Server from the early 2000s about figuring out this problem and trying to fix it. You have 30 years of flight data on these thrusters. Now, with that being said, Fancy, those thrusters are in a new configuration. That's the hard part to test. They're in a new configuration. Starliner service module isn't a shuttle ohms pod. Two different things, right? I think that's fair. That's fair. And this is the point right here where I was still willing to give Boeing the benefit of the doubt here. Up until the last press conference that we heard. In the last press conference, they talked about thruster blowout. And somebody asked a question whether this problem had happened on previous flights. They experienced thruster degradation and blowout on OFT-1 and OFT-2. But because they experienced thruster blowout on OFT2 at basically the very end of using the RCS during entry, descent, and landing when it did the deorbit burn and then they ejected the service module, they said it was fine. Oh, it's fine if we have degraded thrust there. No problem. It's the end of the mission. It was at that point where I changed my opinion completely. And I'll be 100% honest. You know, I'm eating a little bit of humble pie here. But that right there is all I needed to hear. What Eric Berger's saying about Starliner is absolutely correct. Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm not ashamed to admit it. This isn't about proving him right or wrong. It's about understanding what's going on. You know what I mean? He's right. Look, man, you have problems. You have problems with your thrusters on the first and second flight with no people on board. Why the hell did you make a decision to launch people on this on the third flight and didn't seem to think that the same thing would happen? What, bro? Come on. Ridiculous. They did investigate the issue, but not extensively like they're doing now. Clearly, it wasn't enough. They said they needed to review their process on this because certainly some processes needed to be changed. Yeah, I would say so. Rocket Guy, why would you be okay with that level of deviance on a test flight? I understand you're gonna learn new things. I get it, man. I get it. This stuff's hard. I understand. Dude, I don't understand the full picture, but I understand it enough to know the factor of difficulty here. I get it. Dude, if you launch that OFT2 mission and a thruster blows out like that, I would put that stupid thing on the test stand every day to try and mimic that damn behavior until I figured out exactly what was going on before I even thought about putting people on it. And no, that absolutely is not something I say with the benefit of hindsight. I know enough about spaceflight to know that that's something that you don't let it ride. You don't let your thrusters be like, okay, it can blow up. Yeah, whatever. It's not very cash money. Yeah, what they did isn't very cash money. Like, Rocket Guy, am I wrong, dude? Am I wrong? Is this truly an honest mistake, man? There are patterns here, and I know the patterns are it's hard to understand, the patterns of behavior, right? The SRB O-rings on Challenger were fine until they weren't. You know what I mean? But also at the same time, you know, I've said it's inexperience, right? And I do firmly believe that, but also, come on, man. No one knew to look into this? To my knowledge, are you a NASA engineer? No, I'm a spaceflight journalist, if anything, dude. I just play Kerbal a lot, man. I don't know. To my knowledge, they simulated the effect. They thought they found the issue and made a corrective action. It obviously was not the issue. But yes, when two thrusters fail, how do you not go deeper to ensure deeper into it since you were having issues with the thrusters? But also NASA signed off on it too. Like, do you think that after a redesign of the thrusters and doghouses on the service module, would it be safe to launch crews on the next Starliner missions? I think if they redo the control systems to lower the duty cycle on the thrusters into planned spec instead of unplanned spec, which is the other thing they said. They said they were abusing the thrusters comparatively to where they would be, and they said it was fine. Not fine. And that behavior manifested itself on the previous two Starliner missions, just saying. I think Starliner's fine. I think it needs a control systems revamp to take into account that overheating the doghouses is something that could happen. Like, I'm not trying to say I know better, dudes, but I know enough to know that that's not okay. Like, that's not how you test. You got to see this. I have enough links. I'm good. Trying to get through most of them, and I still have 15. Yep. Nope. I get it. This is topical to thrusters. I understand. Like, what? Whatever. Freaking curious. It's Jordan Noon, so what does he want? NASA announced that its Starliner mission is not safe to return with astronauts in it. The detailed rationale provided by the panel of speakers comes back to the lack of predictability in thruster performance. Yep. Specific issue haunting the thrusters was confirmed during testing at White Sands. This test was conducted as part of the response to the anomalous thruster performance on approach to the ISS. Alternative failure mode shown during this testing could have provided a route towards crew returning on Starliner, but not this. That's why I said fault tree takes time, and in this case, they proved that this fault tree is a real threat. The specific failure mode detected involved the thruster valves reaching temperatures outside of their designed and tested specifications. This temperature violation resulted in permanent damage to the valve seals, of which can't be inspected on orbit. With no ability to inspect the damage caused, the only option is to return Starliner without crew. Question I still have is what led to the thrusters to be designed and tested in the wrong thermal environment? There's been significant report on a breakdown in communication. There has been a significant report on breakdown in communication between Boeing and thrust vendor Aerojet Rocketdyne. Well, we don't know that for sure. I don't know what significant reporting he's talking about, but clearly something's up. I want to know if the communication breakdown that led to this mismatch in design expectations was accidental or intentional choice by Boeing to save money by not initiating a change request from Aerojet Rocketdyne. There should be an investigation into this. He's not wrong at this point, man. Dude, like I said, I'm not a rocket scientist. That guy absolutely is. He's one of the founders of Stoke Aerospace. Or Stoke Space. He basically said the same stuff that I just said. Just saying. Like, I'm not a rocket scientist, but I'm pretty good at understanding what's going on here. Is it relativity? Oh, relativity, excuse me. Sorry. Stoke. I just said I know what I'm talking about. Eating humble pie is my advice for the day. Mantra for the day, I should say. Anyway, it's real. This is a Reuters article. Okay. Joey Roulette from 2 years ago. Boeing is feuding with Aerojet Rocketdyne, a key supplier for its Starliner spacecraft, as the U.S. aerospace giant races to test launch the uncrewed astronaut capsule and mend its reputation in the space sector.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Hey, Firebird, 43-month resub. Thanks, man. 34, 43, I don't know. There is an erroneous statement made on X that 1062 would affect Starliner's return. Yeah, we haven't even talked about that, James. I'm going to have to get off the screen. CST 100 Starliner is scheduled for a May 19th launch. Top announced 5 rocket to the ISS. This article is from Joey Roulette from 2 years ago. With Boeing aiming to show NASA that the spacecraft is safe to ferry astronauts to the orbiting outposts, software failures cut short a similar 2019 uncrewed test flight. This mission is a crucial step towards reestablishing Boeing as a viable rival to billionaires SpaceX. A drive complicated by Boeing's disagreement with propulsion system supplier Aerojet Rocketdyne, according to 3 people who spoke on the condition of anonymity. I remember reading this article, Forge. At that point, I kind of disregarded anything after this. I remember reading this 2 years ago. But let's see what Joey has to say. Let's see if he scores some points here. Chicago-based Boeing and El Segundo-based Aerojet are at odds over the cause of a problem involving fuel valves in Starliner's propulsion system that forced a postponement of a test flight last July, with the two companies faulting one another. The disagreement, which has not been reported before, comes at a time when Boeing is already scrambling to emerge from a successive crisis that hobbled its jetliner business and drained cash. The Aerojet dispute is the latest illustration of Boeing's struggles with Starliner, a program... Okay, right. Boeing, in a statement provided by a spokesperson to Reuters, acknowledged for the first time that it ultimately intends to redesign Starliner's valve system to prevent a repeat of the issue that forced last year's test flight postponement. Boeing said in a statement, "We are working on short and long-term design changes to the valves." "13 fuel valves that are part of a propulsion system that helps steer Starliner in space were discovered stuck and unresponsive in the closed position, prompting last year's postponement." These are fuel valves. The oxidizer valves are the ones that are having problems, Forge. But, yeah. I think that's a different issue. I remember reading this, dude. Yeah. This has that had to do with the valves being sticky. This has to do with the valves overheating. Either way, I mean, hey,
Discovery,
Sleazy,
go and
313 sub, just a guess. Honestly, I wouldn't be happy getting on Starliner without a demo mission 3, without a flight test 3. There's not enough rockets to do that, Oculix. That's the big problem. All right, let's go to the next thing. What else we got? Lightning round this. Our mission to explore Jupiter's moons, Europa, remains on track with a launch period opening on October 10th. That's Europa Clipper. Europa Clipper was supposed to launch on SLS, but they moved it to Falcon Heavy. Recently conducted extensive testing of our spacecraft's transistors, and results suggested they are ready to support a baseline mission. All right, cool. October 10th. Good stuff. What else we got here? This is coming from JPL. In a place as far as the sun is Jupiter, you need really big solar panels. For the final installation of its massive solar arrays, Europa Clipper is one step closer to launch. Let's see what we got. How many Atlas N22s are left? There's a good amount of them, FX, but only 6 of them are in the N22 configuration.
The solar array is a powerhouse for the spacecraft on its journey from Earth to Europa. We've just completed our first flight-like deployment, and this is how it will deploy in space. These solar arrays are so big, we can only test one wing at a time.
Cool. So the solar arrays are like the mitochondrion, the powerhouse of the cell.
These solar arrays are really unique in that not only do they need to survive extremely cold temperatures, minus 400 degrees Fahrenheit, it's also meant to survive the extremely harsh Jupiter radiation environment. We built the solar arrays on Earth, we've tested them, but now they're actually going to Jupiter to provide power to all the instruments in the spacecraft to send back valuable science. It's an engineering feat that we're able to develop this. It is extremely exciting for me to be part of that.
Cool. Neato. Cool. That's good that the payload is on schedule. I still have my reservations about how much this mission is going to cost over time, but if someone's launching it. Jeff House did the math in his Starliner's article. Starliner's last contracted flight is now scheduled for 2031, 1 year after ISS deorbit. Dragon by then would have done 15 missions to the ISS. Guys, there's a lot of space news here, but we're getting up to 9 o'clock. So let's get to the SpaceX stuff. Apologies. Yeah. Stuff takes time to explain, and I knew this was going to happen. Should have just done space news the whole freaking day. With the amount of freaking news there is. There will be more. We'll go through more of it tomorrow. Just trying to find the stuff that's absolutely needed. Okay, so Polaris Dawn scrubbed again last night. They scrubbed because of recovery conditions. Recovery and abort contingencies. The weather wasn't good enough. But SpaceX did press forward with the Starlink mission. Starlink mission launched out of Slick 40 last night with booster number 1062. The 23rd flight for this booster. Payload and everything was delivered just fine. 1062 went to do the landing, and then this happened. That was the life leader for SpaceX. This booster launched an Axiom mission and the Inspiration 4 mission. Interestingly enough. It sucks, but it looks like, from what I can tell, let me see if we can get the whole footage. That's just footage from the landing. The mission, for what it's worth, was perfect. The mission went fine. Here, let's get this up there. So here we go, right up into the landing burn here.
Stage 1 landing lane deploy.
It looks like 1062 came down a little bit too hard here, which prompted some questions. It came in a little too hot, and it definitely snapped that Twitter video. Okay. Let's go back over here. It definitely came down too hard. You can clearly see one of the back the landing struts snapped completely. It compacted the crush core on all four and snapped one of the landing legs. She came down too hard. Now, there is, I have other footage here, and this one is from, where is it? It's basically a comparison of these two. Give me 1 second. I can't find it. There's too many links up there. So, long story short, this thing compared to a comparable Starlink mission on the same trajectory started its landing burn a second too late. The landing burn was initiated at a little bit of a different time. And it looks like she came down just a little bit too hard. You got the side-by-side fish? Thank you. Sorry, there's so many freaking things up there. Take a look. And this is Rockets Are Awesome. This Twitter account has them both together. It looks like this is the one that crashed up here. It looked, once again, the landing burn was way late. Yeah, it registered an impact right there. You can see it on the telemetry. It goes from there. So if you look, the IMUs on Falcon 9 are still registering. They're registering movement when the altimeter reads 0, as opposed to 0 and 0. It's reading a 9 km/h movement. That's a translation rate. You know what that is? The booster tipping over. Yeah, this was last night, Xerax. So, here's the thing. What does that mean? What does it mean for Polaris Dawn? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what happened here. It's hard to say. Could it have been a rough sea? Sure, but you can't see the ocean. It's dark. So, what is the slowest it got before tipping? The lowest number I saw on the telemetry was 8 kilometers an hour, Oculus, which means at least an 8 to 10 kilometer an hour impact, which is about 5 to 6 miles an hour. It doesn't seem like much, but that rocket has a lot of inertia, and if the force from 5 miles, I mean, like I said, there's a lot of inertia there, and there's a lot of kinetic energy. That 5 miles an hour doesn't seem like a lot, but when there's a 40-ton booster going 5 miles an hour, it's clearly enough to crush the crush cores, because that's what we saw. Now, what does that mean for Polaris? I don't know. It really depends on what's wrong with this rocket. It really depends on why 1062 popped. Why did it do it? Well, you know, you could say, oh, the landing legs, malfunctioned. And that could be it. We don't know. It's hard to say. Are those landing legs the original 4 landing legs that have flown 22 prior flights? I would probably want to know that information. What I'd be really curious to know is if those engines, the 9 engines that are on here, are the engines that came with the booster from the factory. Have those engines flown 22 missions? I don't know. Maybe. Right? It seems like this may or may not be a propulsion problem. And that prompted the FAA, because the FAA actually grounded Falcon 9. They grounded it. They said they need to do a mishap investigation. Right? Boeing parts used, wrecked. Just read the instructions. Is moving near North Carolina. She was scheduled to support Polaris Dawn, but seems that they're not coming back anytime soon. Yep. So I'd want to look at the software for why the burn was late. I'd want to look at everything, Carl. Everything. Look, man, if you're having propulsion problems, if you're having problems with your main engines, if you're having problems with the Merlins here, you're about to put people on a mission that's going to shoot them into a 1200 by 190 kilometer insertion. You probably should make sure that information, that the data is right, and you figure out what the heck went wrong. But that being said, the FAA is still grounded it for the mishap. With that also being said, I'll bet you SpaceX knows exactly what's wrong. They're pretty damn good at this. The thing about Falcon 9 is, and this is what I always say, guys, hey, talk is cheap. Talk is cheap. Flight data is the best data you have, and SpaceX has a ton of that. Oh, they got lots of that. They had 276 consecutive successful landings. They got a lot of data on landing one of these things. I bet you from that data, from that gigantic data set, they could probably pinpoint exactly what went wrong. Right? Now, here, this is the Vice President of Falcon 9 launch vehicles at SpaceX. It's John Edwards. Losing a booster is always sad. Listen to this. Each one of them has a unique history and character. Thankfully, this doesn't happen often due to the robustest design and vigilance of the team. Gotta be hungry. We are working as hard as we can to thoroughly understand the root cause and get corrective actions in place as soon as possible. One thing we do know, though, is this was purely a recovery issue and posed no threat to primary mission or public safety. Reading that, I'll bet you it has nothing to do with the engines. Reading that, sounds like the seas were a little too rough. Seeing a booster rud sucks. That is precisely why the FAA grounded the vehicle. And I see a lot of people ask, I had a lot of questions asking me. A lot of people asking questions to me. Sorry, I can speak English, I swear. You know, why? Why? Every rocket disintegrates. Every other rocket disintegrates. Why did they open a mishap investigation for SpaceX
when their rocket just did, for a change, it just did what everybody else's rocket did. Here's the thing, guys. SpaceX didn't intend for that to happen. Other expendable launch vehicles intend to destroy their stage. That's part of the mission plan. The vehicle not doing what you wanted is a big red flag. Like Starliner's thrusters, for instance. Big red flag. Yeah, big red flag. How much you want to bet it was a rogue wave? Aqualex, with what John said right there, I think you may have been on the money, dude. It sounds like rough seas to me. Sounds like it just hit a wave. And the barge went up when the booster was coming down, and it was enough to snap one of the struts. It probably snapped the struts because it's been flown 22 prior flights. That's my guess. You know, but it could have been a propulsion issue, but after what I heard John say there, I don't know. I'm going to be hesitant to say that. Why didn't the FAA ground Falcon back in 2021 when the booster had a burn through in the engine bay and failed in flight? That's a good question, Forge. I don't have the answer to that one. I understand. It makes sense in the context of their criteria. My guess is that at that particular point, the current evaluation context for a mishap investigation from the FAA, that framework was not implemented yet. That's probably what's going on. The FAA criteria changed after that past failure. There you go. Why does SpaceX land stuffs on ships anyway versus at a launch pad? Spaceman, the rocket, with heavier payloads, the rocket doesn't have enough fuel to get back to the launch site. So they need a stopgap solution, which was landing out on the drone ships. Right? Makes sense. The fuel that you need to have that first stage turnaround is only warranted for what's called a low energy insertion. That's what that's called. It's called low energy insertion. Basically, you have spare fuel on the booster, and the booster has enough fuel to be able to turn around and come down and land. Other boosters don't do the turnaround thing. They just keep going, and then they just give them enough to do the landing burn, the entry burn, and the landing burn, right? Recovery is part of the launch license, so it makes sense the FAA gets involved. Bingo. It didn't do exactly what they wanted. Big crane. Oh, nice. That's great, demo. I have to look at that when I'm not completely asleep. The wave at sea, one chance in a million. So, I highly doubt that Polaris Dawn is going to happen. It's going to happen this week. But at the same time, I don't think that this I don't think this mission is going to take this mishap is going to take very long. Just once again, because of the sheer amount of data that SpaceX has, they'll be able to pinpoint it very quickly. I think SpaceX is doing this and already knows preliminary data of what it most likely was. They already know what it was, Erudite. You just got to prove it. You have to prove it. You have to prove it to the FAA. That's the whole idea here. Burden of proof is on them, because it's their rocket that exploded when it shouldn't have. People don't realize the FAA will investigate any mishap from general aviation all the way up the chain now. That's correct. Yeah. Guys, I had a very, very tenured commercial airline pilot explain this to me once. When the FAA first started having jurisdiction over like commercial space launches and stuff, I had it put to me like this. Look, the FAA will get up your tail if you're doing something wrong, right? But that's not because they're your enemy, right? They're trying to make the industry safer. They're not your enemy, but they ain't your friend either. And that puts a lot of this into perspective as to why these mishap investigations get done. SpaceX did, if we want the booster, if you want Falcon 9 to be truly as reliable as an airplane, and Starship for that matter, should be held to the same standards as an airplane. Now that's something I can understand, and that makes perfect sense. The FAA is just abiding by that rule. They're abiding by SpaceX's own mantra and holding them to it. I think that's right. I think that's the right move. Just saying. Dude, a plane could have a flat tire on landing, and the FAA would be investigating that. Oh, absolutely. Waves can be hard to predict. Yeah. Look, from what John Edwards just said speaks volumes. That
That tells me everything I need to know. Like I said, that says... That tells me everything I need to know. Pretty straightforward stuff. If the booster had auto-aborted to ditch at the last second instead of trying for the landing in rougher than usual seas, would it still have forced an investigation? No. No, Yarg, probably not, because it's an abort contingency. Yeah, if it followed a contingency correctly to avoid crashing into the drone ship, like basically what it did, no, that would be fine. I wonder if they were able to get the engine fire out in a timely manner. There are fire suppression systems, Bill, on the drone ship. The fire suppression systems, as of late, have been there to coat the deck of the drone ship with a film of water to basically film cool the barge so Falcon 9 doesn't blow a hole in it when it comes into land. And that's why all that steam gets popped up right when Falcon comes into land. They film cool the deck of the barge by basically spraying water all over it. Now, like I said, double use. You could also use that as a fire suppression system, which is probably what happened. We've seen SpaceX do that with, what was it, SN10? SN10 landed, it crashed, and it started leaking fuel everywhere, started catching on fire, and they started spraying it with a fire suppression system, but it wasn't enough. So basically the FAA is incentivizing them not to try for any landing that is in 100% calm instead of pushing the landing envelope. I think you're reading into this a little too much, man. They've been pushing the landing envelope for the past 276 flights successfully. I think you're reading a little bit too much into this. Yeah, I mean, guys, here, how's this for a spicy take? I'm pretty dang sure that even if the FAA didn't ground Falcon 9, SpaceX probably wouldn't have launched Polaris Dawn this week. Even if the FAA didn't say no, I'm pretty sure they still wouldn't have. Yes, but if they hadn't pushed it and ditched, they wouldn't have had an investigation. It's the computer that makes that decision, Yarg. Like, dude, do you think it's Kerbal? Like, where somebody's flying it and a pilot's flying the damn booster down, dude? Like, what are you insinuating? I don't get it. I don't understand. Are you, like, what? Someone had the control scheme backwards. Yeah. Hey, Bob. What's going on, bud? I don't understand. Like, what's your point, dude? Get down to brass tacks. Tell me. Because I don't get what you're trying to say. Hey, Bob. Bob. Yes, it is the computer, but the FAA is incentivizing programming the computer to ditch if a landing isn't assured instead of pushing the envelope and risking an investigation.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Why would SpaceX want to throw away a Falcon 9 that they intend to reuse? SpaceX has mountains of data. This mishap investigation is not going to last very long. It's not like they're going to ground it. Dude, they had a second stage blow up from the Starlink 8-3 mission. It blew up. It blew up. We didn't see it on camera, but they went to start the engine and it exploded. All right, that's what happened. Okay? And that was 2 weeks of downtime, dude. catastrophic second stage engine rud. And that was 2 weeks of downtime. This is not a big deal. It's not going to last very long. A week, maybe, at best. Probably be good to go by Monday. Do you think Newlands will ace the first landing? Yeah, yes I do. Blue Origin has plenty of information on landing a booster with New Shepard. Now I know what people are going to say, but that's a suborbital booster. Oh yeah, okay, because that somehow makes the factor of difficulty way less difficult? What? What are you talking about? New Shepard goes above the Kármán line, guys. That goes just as far as a Falcon 9 booster in space. Like, actually, some Falcons we've seen like with 130-kilometer apogee, which is frankly absurd, right? They have plenty of landing data. Why wouldn't it work on the first try? Flight data is king, guys. Like, you don't understand. Flight data is king. Yeah. Hey, Ringo. What's up, man? My point is this investigation should not have any effect on their launches. It should only be for their own fact-finding, which I'm sure they would have done even if the FAA had stayed silent. Yeah, sure. But SpaceX is forging a commercial frame... SpaceX and the FAA basically are forging the pathway for commercial framework for spacecraft in the future. It's not that SpaceX wouldn't have done their due diligence, but this is a framework to make it so everybody's held to the same standards that they are. That's part of the reason why these environmental impacts for Starship and Starbase take so freaking long, guys. The FAA is figuring out what the heck you need to certify a commercial spaceport for flight. How the frick are they supposed to know? It ain't no airport, right? That's part of the reason why this whole thing is taking so long. That will make it in the future if SpaceX says, fine, frick it, we don't want to launch a Boca Chica. We want to make a launch site in Maine. Or we want one at Kwajalein or something. We want a commercial spaceport there. All right, cool. Here's your framework. Do it. Get it done. NASCAR now races at 2 F1 tracks in 2025. What's the second one, Ringo? Don't say Las Vegas, please. Please don't. It better not be that. Coda in Mexico. Oh, right on, dude. Mexico City's a good track, dude. I like that track. Dude, some of those corners are going to just absolutely punish those damn NASCARs, man. I think they're happy to lead by example, but I also wish they weren't in the spotlight. Level 1, I think that's what Yarg's getting at. Yeah, I understand it. I understand where you're getting at, too. Yeah. Yarg, you think they should be hands off. Just let them go and figure it out later, which I think that's a... Dude, that is a... I don't think that's like a crazy thing to ask for. You know, as long as people aren't getting hurt, I don't care. Whatever. I mean, heck, I'm for them doing what they did with Starship suborbital flights. Test it more. Oh, yeah, I'm all for that. Because, once again, more flight data is going to make the vehicle safer. Saying. I'm not sure if Maine or Quaj would be funnier. I was picking the two most random sites I could think of. Can you imagine a starbase at Loring or something? That would be ridiculous. There's no way. But hey, maybe in the future, don't know. Wouldn't that be cool? Starship launch site at Loring Air Force Base? That would be nuts. That would be absolutely insane. And you know what? I'd be here for it. That'd be great. Yeah, for point to point. There you go. Did Boeing mess up big time? I'm out of the loop. Did Boeing take a massive L? Optically, yes. From an engineering standpoint, Ringo, it's not as bad as everybody says. Seriously, there's some definite inexperience going on here. Yeah. I wouldn't say mismanagement or anything. There's definitely some inexperience. I think a little minor mishap from Starliner has been a public relations nightmare. Yeah, nightmare. Yep. Polar Orbit Starbase in Cape Cod. Yeah, baby, let's go. Dude, I even have a spot picked out, NG. There's a spot that conforms to commercial spaceport specifications as far as I can tell. on the Cape, and it's actually a pretty prime spot. The thing is, it's never going to happen, but it'd be a pretty prime spot. Take a look. Right here on the sandbar off Chatham is the best spot for a spaceport. Right here. Check it out. You're 2.5 miles from anybody's house. See what I mean? Right there. Perfect spot. It'll never allow it. These people get pissed off if you put a wind turbine out there. There's no way they're going to put a spaceport out there, but a spaceport right on the sandbar right here would be ace. Ace, dude. You have an insanely good launch corridor. You could get to the ISS from here. Easily get to the ISS from here. You could do polar out of there. You could do anywhere pretty much up to, let me take a look. Anywhere up to about 55 degrees. So you have 55 all the way to, you could, if you did a dogleg trajectory out of here, you could do retrograde from there too. You got 55 to 97 inclination. That's amazing. That's really good. Yeah, you could do it. You'd get NIMBY doll hell. There's no way that would happen. Yeah, there's no way they'd be cool with that. But it would be pretty rad, and you could do it there. Bermuda would be under some of that. Nah, on a sun synchronous insertion, you'd go around it, and ironically, you'd pass by Florida. The FAA investigating SpaceX at this point also feels like a high school physics student investigating theoretical physicists' works. Not a lot of faith in the FAA, huh, Yard? That'd be cool, man. I'd be all about that. That spaceport would not be very far from my house. The issue with Starliner reminds me of the PR nightmare that the people behind 3 Mile Island created. Yep, pretty much. Hellfish, I will tell you this once, I'll tell you this again, I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. And once again, clip it. Clip it. I would love, I mean, if you want to prove, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm willing to admit it. I'm not a bitch about this, you know what I mean? Like, it's about understanding. And if I get something wrong, I want to know why, because my judgment was off, and then my judgment should change, right? Obviously. But once again, fellas, I firmly believe that Boeing adjusted the control systems and Starliner's going to come down just fine. I firmly believe it. I'm calling it right now. This is on August 28th, 2024, 9:08 p.m. I think it's going to come down just fine. I really do. But the damage has already been done. Sorry, it's already been done. Pilgrim Spaceport. Bill, I've put a lot of thought into this, all right? How cool would a commercial launch provider be building rockets in Massachusetts and flying it out of Chatham? How cool would it be calling it Plymouth Rocket Company? Yeah. How cool would that be? Yes, I put thought into this. Plymouth Rocket Company. Yeah. Yeah. What do you mean, penitentiary? That's awesome. That's a great name. Come on. It's a great name. Is Plymouth Rock in Massachusetts or Rhode Island? It's in Massachusetts. Yeah. 3 guesses who is the prime contractor for the cleanup at 3 Mile Island was. No. No. Oh, God. No. PRC stock just entered the chat. How cool would that be? Right? No. How is this company still around? How is this a thing? How are you? What? Never mind. Never mind. Nope. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. But anyway, Plymouth Rocket Company. And here, hold on. use the same logos as Plymouth Cordage. If you know, you know. Hang on, I gotta find it. Where's their signage? Yeah, there we go. Plymouth Cordage, except you replace the sailboat with a rocket. Sawyer has rotted your brain. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. Anyway, it'd be cool, man. See, here's the thing. I'd love to do it, but I'm too stupid to know how to do that, to be honest. And the ocean with the disk of the Earth. Dude, it's a good idea, man. Plymouth Rocket Company. It makes sense. It makes sense, dude. Saying. Anyway, all right, guys, it's getting up to 9 o'clock. I'm gonna get some sleep so I can actually give you guys the content that you pay for tomorrow morning, if you don't mind. Then it really would be East Coast, Best Coast. Yeah, sure. I'm sorry for having to take a break today, and I'm sorry for giving weak content with the exception of space news. I don't like it. I don't like it when I say I'm going to do something and not do it. It really bothers me. Apparently, it doesn't bother some contractors. That's what I'm just saying. Apparently, it does bother some spaceflight contractors, but it bothers the hell out of me. Covering the Blorgen launch tomorrow. It's going to be close, peeps. I'll have to see. For the milk and cookies before bed. Where's your summer car? I will play Summer Car tomorrow. If Polaris Dawn is not launching this week, we'll just resume our regular schedule. Oh, and oh boy, is Flame Trench on Friday going to be fun? That's going to be fun. It's okay. I pay for the content on automotive work. This is fine, right? Sure. So what I think we'll do is, dude, I still have, we didn't even get through half of the space news stuff. There's an ABL mishap. There's astrobotic mishaps. We didn't even get through any, dude, there's so much stuff. Relativity's working on payload fairings. Rocket Lab has pictures of the rockets, their new rocket engines. Boom Supersonic did their second successful flight test of the XB-1. Dude, there's so much stuff. It's, yeah, crazy. So, fat chance on covering Blue tomorrow. I don't know. It really depends. It's probably going to be no. NS-26 is launching. A New Shepard is going to launch a commercial flight tomorrow at 9:26 a.m. from what I understand. No, it's just straight 9 o'clock. It's NS-26. NS-26, 9 o'clock. My brain's starting to scramble numbers. You got like 15 monitors over there? I have 4 24-inch monitors, Bob. 2 on each flank, 1 in the center, 1 up there. Yeah, it's a freaking, it looks like mission control up in here. That's the phallic rocket, right? Suborbital tourism reusable rocket. Yeah, or you could, I mean, you could call it that if you want. And a hood scoop. Well, yeah, the hood scoop, Bob, adds like 10 horsepower. Duh. Hopefully your room has cooled down some. The humidity's gone down. Temperature. Still pretty hot in here. Anyway. Guys, I want to... You guys ever watch the old school, like, Daily Show back in the day? I want to leave you with a moment of zen.
tonight. Coming from good friend of mine here. Joseph Blissington.
What they say, right? Ignore your design flaws and keep on moving. Hey guys, welcome back to the Boeing YouTube channel.
There's your moment of zen. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. Sorry for the crappy schedule today, and I'll see you guys tomorrow at noontime. Actually, it's probably gonna be. I have to drive into Boston tomorrow, so it's probably. It's pretty good, right? It's probably. It's Joseph Blissington. He's practically a legend in the aerospace industry. Yeah, I honestly, the start time's probably going to be like 1, 2 o'clock tomorrow. I have to deal with Boston traffic. And it's the last weekend for people to go down to the Cape. So coming home is going to suck. Let's just say 2 p.m. and call it a day. That's probably when I'll be home. They fly in way earlier than that. But yeah, we'll say 2 p.m. Call it a day. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Summer car for after hours, space news, and I don't know, should we finish texturing the part tomorrow? I think, yeah, we should probably do that. I'll bite the bullet and freaking try GIMP again. God dang it. All right. So I'll see you guys at 2. That's 2 hours after my normal start time. Once again, got in-laws coming in. Gotta make sure they're home. EJ's flame room, hot. That's right. All right. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed your moment of zen. See ya.